102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just naming politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi Ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's a land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's what I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then, taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But we have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Karibu sana. Asante sana. CT Muga. CT Loch. Muga, not Muga. He's here and here's the day's proverb. One man marries a woman. Another man marries troubles. Is it the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It will die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
with the same IBC.
You can't.
I told you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Kina Ednah, it's the you said the bees and the peas. Kila kitu mkago ukisikia kisema atazama opposite.
Opposite?
Ukisema yeye anazama opposite. Opposite. Ukisikiliza na unasikia opposite.
Good morning and welcome to Monday. All right. Where are you and what's going on where you might be? Let's start off at State House Road, where there's a bit of traffic today and it's heading out towards the city or going in the general direction of Chiromo through the Arboretum. So that's one to watch today. It doesn't really happen at this hour. The Thika Super Highway, also traffic is coming in. Just at the Pangani underpasses where we'll see a bit of a hold up, but again, nothing crazy here. They're coming off of Kasarani out towards Garden City. There we already see a build up of traffic in onto Juja Road, and that's flowing free. Traffic is moving smoothly. Outer Ring has some movement here and there, and we'll see a hold up that we know what Monday morning would definitely look like when it comes to that movement. But right now, it's all a watch and see. Let's see what happens as we get into the morning. Help us out here, folks, as well on SpiceFM KE. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
11th of March, and it's 9 minutes after 6 a.m. Kenya's biggest conversation starts now. Good morning, and coming in after an interesting weekend, having an opportunity to look at some of the things that are going on in the country and, of course, in different parts of the world. So here we are, and starting off Kenya's biggest conversation for this week. All right, gentlemen will be here in a minute. I want to tell you about various conversations that we will be having today. But before we get to that, Ednah's here. So yay, it's fantastic to have her back. And we'll say hello to her proper. So as you're getting in, just start remembering that she's here. Yes? Yes. Okay. Conversations that shall be had today. At 7 a.m., we're going to be looking at NHIF to Linda Mama, the state of health in Kenya. And, did I make a mistake? I'm very sorry. I'm coming back. Here we are, 7 a.m. The CS for Public Service Performance and Delivery Management, Moses Kuria, will be here with us at 7 o'clock. And it's interesting because he's got a crystal ball and he wants to read from it. And he says it's going to be a landmark political prophecy. Today, it's going to be very interesting. Okay, at 8 o'clock, we have two people in the studio. We're going to be understanding gender bonds and their benefits to Kenyans. Mary Njuguna is the Principal Secretary, Principal Specialist, Capital Markets for Africa, FSD Africa, and the UK's Economic Counsellor, Daniel Wilcox, will join her, and we'll be looking at that with the two of them. Finally, at 9 a.m., the Member of Parliament for the East Africa Legislative Assembly, David Ole Sankok, will be with us here, and we'll be talking about the march to the AU, why EALA is drumming up support for Raila. That conversation still continues. So those are the things that we'll be talking about today, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. Eric, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am fine, thank you. And you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes. Somebody moved around my chair.
Who moved the cheese?
I do not know. Yeah. This chair is just one of those useless chairs.
Okay.
Hatuwezi survive na hii kiti mpaka saa 4.
Sasa tufanyaje?
Nitaenda kutafuta kiti ingine.
Okay.
I will go look for another chair. We cannot live like this.
Okay.
Hii maisha tumekataa.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Yeah. Ednah is back.
She's back. Guess who's back? Back again.
Ednah's back.
Tell your friends. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Hey, there's a song for everything, I'm telling you.
Kabisa. And even CT is around.
Imagine he is.
Yeah, so he'll be checking in shortly. We are live streaming and it's up. It's When it's up, it is up, and Arsenal is top of the league. Ednah reminds me. Sijui kama mnaelewa. Mwanzo kuzoea kunywa chai na birika. Sababu Arsenal imechukua kikombe.
Okay, sawa basi.
Okay?
Tumeelewa.
Kunywa chai na birika ama na thermos. Kikombe imeenda na Arsenal. Kabisa hiyo imeenda. City.
Sorry.
Umemaliza? Download. Okay. How are you?
Fine.
How was your weekend?
Interesting.
It was,
Interesting.
So it wasn't quiet this time. Interesting this time.
It was interesting.
Mention one or two things.
Well, I was out of the house more often than I normally am. I met with a friend of mine. I met with my siblings. We had a long afternoon of chit-chatting. I had some video call with some people I know. So it was not one of these Saturdays and Sundays where I actually sit indoors, read, watch a movie. That didn't happen.
Kwani kuna kesi? Hakuna kesi?
Kuna.
Okay.
Najua.
And you say you met with your siblings and you had a video call.
No, it's like everybody wanted to talk to me on the weekend. That's why it was unusual.
Okay.
People who ordinarily you see, you chat with, but they decide, let's go and visit so and so and see how he's actually doing. Now that is unusual. I'm not usually visited. Yes.
Particularly on weekends.
Yes. It is known that weekends I prefer not to be disturbed.
All right. Okay. Good. So you start a new week on that high note.
It's actually very good. The thing about Mondays, it's important that one begins a Monday fully rested. Oh yes, and on Saturday, I went for that Man Enough, that session that I normally go for. Yes. So, as I said, it was an interesting weekend.
Very good.
Yes.
How long is the session of Man Enough?
This was it's 8 weeks. Is it 9 now? Because they added a chapter. But I am normally called in to be the main speaker for the session of Finishing Well.
Okay.
Yes, so I think the figure, if you're sufficiently old,
you know how to finish.
Yes, you're heading towards the finishing line.
One day we'll have a conversation about Man Enough, one of these Fridays. There are people who complain and say, how are watu Man Enough? Well,
ile mambo anafundisha watu. What we'll do, we'll call two of my co-conspirators, so that they can give you a history.
Come and tell us about the Man Enough.
Hiyo ni mzuri sana. Waje waseme hiyo Man Enough yote. Whether wametosha birika ama bado.
That's a good idea.
There are people, especially women, who have heard many of them say, Man Enough. Ukiona mwanaume pale, aseme hata usingoje amalize ina.
Shida.
Hepa.
Mingi.
Take off. It's 16 minutes after 6. The live stream is up and many people are online already. Say hello to Ednah. She's back, and also we are live on YouTube as well. Of course, we are live on SpiceFM across the country.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 26. 29 will be the high, and a partly cloudy in Nakuru at 14, and it's 13 and cloudy in Nyeri, going to highs of 27. Eldoret is clear at 16. We'll see highs of 26. Mombasa is sunny at 28 with highs of 34, and in Malindi, sunny conditions at 30 is what we'll see this morning, with highs of 33 and lows of 28. Clear at 20 in Kisumu for now. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 19, and at 17 degrees it's clear in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 16. Kampala is clear at 21. We'll see highs of 29. While in Dar es Salaam it's partly cloudy at 28. We'll go to highs of 33. Looking into mostly clear Johannesburg at 18. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 15. While Mogadishu is sunny at 27. We'll see highs of 33. Addis Ababa at 12 is partly cloudy. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 12. While it's clear in Lagos at 27. We'll see highs of 34. 25 and mostly cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 34 and lows of 24. And we're looking into a sunny Beijing at 11, highs of 12 and lows of -2. Paris is cloudy at 5 degrees, highs of 12, while in London at 7 degrees, hazy conditions, highs of 11. And around things up in New York, where Sunday night is partly cloudy at 3, coming into Monday, highs of 11 and lows of 1.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Oiler says, good morning, our spices. Ottawa will go back to negatives tomorrow. Yeah, the weather keeps doing a thing on and off, back and forth. Solutions says, good morning. For the past 1 week, I can't get you guys online. Don't know why. Online radios doesn't seem to be working. Zeke says, good morning and happy new week. It's the best and most informative station in East Africa. Thank you. Joe Mungai says, Kenya is losing its youth to illicit brew, and Professor Kindiki might not rest anytime soon. Azaria said, good morning. Much love to you guys. Praying for the corrupt Kenya that leaders have legalized. Okay. Deno Wanza says, good morning, team. Happy new week. And to you too. Good morning, Kenya's biggest conversation. Have a fruitful and truthful week ahead. Robert Mbogo is tuned in and says, tuning from Mombasa, great week. So George Gashoidi says, greetings from the Manchunians. Yes, you're in Manchester. Looking forward to a great show. Indeed. Kennedy Anyonya is tuned in this morning. Yes, Ednah is here. And says, yeah, Ramadan Kareem to all Muslims starting this week. We'll see when exactly. Good morning. Now, Pata Kutoka Siaya says, good morning. Looking forward to a great show. Is Nyaboke in the house? She is. Apera salamu. Salamu kwako, Nyaboke. Kaboko says, good morning. Dominic Kabuga is tuned in. Chris Adede is also tuned in this morning. And from Harbin, China, KK says, good morning. Ricardo Mariere is tuned in. Dr. Venvik is here as well. And Robinson says, good morning from Hong Kong. From a freezing morning, heading into the afternoon, looking forward to candid conversations this morning. Josegi says, Ndu, please pronounce the word pepper for me. Pepper. Abi?
Which one?
P-E-P-P-E-R, like the spice you put in.
Oh, the one you guys call pepe.
Pepe.
Yeah.
But it's pepper. All right. Malala says, good morning. Washington Okechi says, good morning. You always make my day. Well, thank you for being here every morning. Really appreciate you doing that. Tibbs Muga says, good morning. Gathua Gashora is saying good morning as well. Have a great week ahead. Tibbs is also asking, any information on Mildred Busolo? Well, let's see. Jimmy Wakasa says, good morning as well. Wish you all a fantastic day. And Deli Wash says, good morning. Pap D is now talking about the rebellion with Yoweri Museveni. Okay, a history lesson. Well, let's wait a few minutes before we get into it, right? All our folks on Facebook who are tuning into the lives as well. Lovely to have you here this morning. Where are we?
Facebook.
Yeah.
It's not Facebooking.
Well, we are there and saying good morning to everybody who's tuned in. We'll find you in a minute. There we are. Alex says good morning. George Mashuki is tuning from Kasarani. And MCR James Kimanzi is watching from Mwingi East.
Karibu kila mtu. City Muga. Where do we go to this week? Seychelles. Okay.
An island nation. Yes, one of the smallest on the planet. And it is in Africa. Yes.
Okay.
A dog that lives near the brook never tires of lapping water.
A dog that lives near the brook never tires of lapping water.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how they drink water, for those who are wondering what I'm talking about.
What's the difference between a brook and a stream?
I think a brook is smaller.
Smaller than a stream? And a stream is smaller than a river?
Yes.
In Kenya, all of those are rivers.
And in between there's a rivulet. Yes.
In Kenya, all those are rivers.
See, there's water.
Nimuto.
And it's moving. River.
Nimuto.
Small river, big river.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's look at the headlines.
All right, front page of the Standard this morning, staring at a disaster. And there's the face of CS of Health, Susan Nahumicha. Doctors are going on strike if their demands are not met today. Ministry of Health officials are hesitant to post interns who make up almost 30% of the workforce. As the calls for dialogue grow, Kenyans will yet again bear the brunt of the strike. Dr. Dennis Miskela, who is the KMPDU Deputy Secretary General, says what we are faced with is a huge crisis in the making. Public hospitals cannot operate normally and it's bound to get worse. Fix it, essentially, is what they're saying. So, in Haiti, the US is evacuating its staff as violence takes a toll on the Haiti capital. The United States says it has airlifted non-essential embassy staff from Haiti as the country spirals further into gang violence. The Americans have also boosted security at their mission in the capital, Port-au-Prince. And guess where Kenyans are sending 1,000 police officers?
They're there. They're going to deal with those people.
Okay.
How to Jui.
All right. How failed AU stab could dent Ryla's CV? That's going to be an interesting story to look into. Academy Awards, the stars gather in LA, so they grab the Oscars. Actually still on, right? County heads say move on NSSF is illegal, so we'll look at that. Fees, reigning errant school heads, parent pleads with the court. One school has taken the school head to court, actually sued him to court, and has said that the extra charges are not in line with the ministry's directive and wants the school to refund the fees and the administration's surcharged. Okay. On the front page of The Nation, sexual abuse in school. A host of secondary school students are suffering in silence as sex predators, including their classmates and teachers, pounce on them, with their complaints often being ignored even by their own parents. Who will stop this silence epidemic? Battle for ODM Soul, Joho versus Oparanya. So there's an Oparanya campus, apparently. And in that camp, Edwin Sifuna, Dr. Oburu Oginga, Opio Wandai, Timothy Bosire, Elsie Muhanda, and Simbarati.
Okay.
In the Joho camp, Junet Mohammed, John Buddy, Babu Wino, Ledama Olekina, Stewart Matsayo, and Fatuma Mesito.
Okay.
So they're saying, there's a soul and we are fighting for it. So everybody is...
To be the leader of ODM?
Yes, to be the next guy.
Okay.
After Raila Odinga.
So the two deputies are the ones who are now next in line?
And they have their camps.
All right.
Yeah.
Amashida.
So no. Okay, so the chief Kadhi has said, you know what, everybody, calm down. Everybody wants to start fasting. See, relax. We'll give you guidelines. He said he's urging everyone to wait for his guidance before beginning the fasting of the holy month of Ramadan.
Every year.
This happens.
Every year. Okay, go on.
He says he will give guidance. Everybody is it today, is it tomorrow? Some have already started fasting and they've not been told. So, I mean, he says, just calm down. I'll let you know what's going on. Defied principals send learners home for fees. Secondary schools have started sending students home after fees arrears, even as principals claim their institutions are severely strained due to capitation challenges. It is an issue, and the question is what will be done, because it's a chicken and egg situation. Actually, it's not. It's catch-22 because there's money you should be receiving, you're not, and the students are in school, and you need to take care of them. Who would bring the money? These parents.
Quisha. Business Daily. Telkom billions trail fades on multi-country barriers. Remember, we paid some 6 billion shillings to acquire Telkom. Remember when the cabinet secretary for ICT was here and I asked him, who owns Telkom? Are you that one now? You surely now. Telkom is private now. And yet the government had bought back Telkom. Kenya's probe into the 6.09 billion shilling transactions that saw the Treasury purchase Telkom Kenya shares from Jamhuri Holdings Limited hit a dead end after investigators were denied access to accounts beyond Mauritius. The investigating authorities have now disclosed how the lack of a framework for exchanging financial intelligence beyond the Indian Ocean tax haven thwarted the probe into the money trail. Story come. Kenya's Financial Intelligence Unit, The Financial Reporting Center says investigators could not get access to the movement of money past Mauritius to ascertain the exact beneficiaries from the transaction due to gaps in international partnerships in sharing details of such transactions. FRC Director General Saitoti Maika says, we ran into hurdles when we were following up the telecom deal because the money moved from Kenya to Mauritius and then to Jersey Island, where Helios is registered. Kenya, Mauritius, Jersey Island. Question, Nyeri. But why are you following the money? So, see, you paid. Do you have the shares?
So you have something you got?
Do we have the shares? When they give us money, do we check where it came from? Do we have the shares or not? That's a big one. Digital lenders are seeking CBK help to unlock 429 licenses. What? The Digital Financial Services Association of Kenya, an umbrella body for digital loan providers, says while it welcomes the recent award of 19 additional licenses, a clear guidance from the CBK on details of the prerequisite documents will help speed up the process. So remember, now these digital lenders were put under the ambit of the Central Bank of Kenya, which said all of you must register with me. Now they sent applications. CBK has been waking up and to approve kamoja leo ama to approve Wednesday. There are some 429 applications that are sitting with the CBK. No word on what is happening. Are we pre-qualified? Is there anything that we have not done? They don't know. The CBK has received 480. 480 minus 429. Can you imagine?
Good Lord.
Can you imagine? Only 51 have been cleared. All the others are waiting. You know what the CBK is saying? Pending documentation. Now DFSK is saying, what documentation do you want? What? They're not being told. It's a tough era, that one. End of an era as Olaka exits Kenya Banking Association. And this is with regards to Dr. Habil Olaka, who's been at the helm of the Kenya Bankers Association since 2010. He's retired. He's retired. Habil Olaka, Kenya Bankers Association. He's no longer the CEO.
14 years. Okay.
He's served long enough. He has moved the needle. Uchumi Supermarkets goes silent on franchising plan.
What?
Do you remember Uchumi Supermarket?
What do we go silent on franchising plan?
Cash-strapped Uchumi Supermarkets has gone silent on the franchising model that has been touted as the route to rescue it from collapse. That is complicating its recovery efforts.
Is it not collapsed already?
So it still has assets.
Okay, the asset. Okay, so assets essentially would be used for some kind of...
So now that's where the franchising would come in. You can now bring in somebody to, but now surely. CMA opens window for local firms to issue regional bonds. So you are here and you want to do a bond, you can do bonds across East Africa in a move aimed at diversifying the investor base and strengthening the region's financial integration agenda. City Muga.
Yes, please.
You've got the star with you, don't you?
I have the star with me. Top right-hand corner, Intel Green. Tragedy as trader shoots himself inside his car in Langata Estate.
What?
Suspected suicide. This is still on page 3. Picture of a fine gentleman.
Okay, if he shoots, if he for sure shot himself, that's suicide.
That's apparent. His name was Abraham Meli. Family says Meli was a former military personnel and had a licensed gun.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Now, to date, just so that I would mention, to date, we have, as in 2020, the police reported that 174 people had died by way of suicide.
In 2020?
Just to mention, yes.
There are many who died.
Many more have died since.
Oof. Yeah, okay.
All right. I'm ready to pay the price for illicit bruise war, says Gashagwa. This is still on page 2, is determined.
Okay.
Police reforms, harmonize warders, army and police salaries, report. Okay. Succession politics. Joe ODM faction meets as Raila MPs keep off row. Down in the middle of the paper, audit, parastatals bid to block payment flops in High Court and Supreme Court. Ketraco, the flop, Ketraco to pay firm 9 billion for failed deal.
9 billion?
Yeah, we have many of these, don't we?
Ketraco makes money. 9 billion shillings.
Breach of contract lands giant power company in trouble, the Spanish power contractor. We do quite a bit of this, don't we?
So what did we not do? Ketraco contracted somebody.
This story has been
And
around
they
for a
cancelled
while.
the contract.
Yeah, they did contract someone, and there was an understanding of. This is actually, let me read just a snippet of it.
Okay.
Auditor General's report reveals numerous irregularities in contracts power transmission company entered with bankrupt firms, resulting in penalties.
It was just looking for those.
Yes.
Being bankrupt is an added advantage.
Should you be bankrupt, it would help your case along just a little bit.
Yes.
We like helping those who are down.
Yeah.
We are very specific.
We'll give you money so that you
We
can
would like
start a
doing business with, so please.
If you fall into this category.
And if you haven't, you can file for bankruptcy. Then come.
Okay. Tell us about traffic, tafadhali. Sawa.
Yeah.
27 minutes to 7. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to
All right,
start
so
your
coming
day.
around 6:30, and has that been any change on the roads this morning? We take a look at the Thika Superhighway, still flowing until then. You get towards Survey, so that's already heavy. It's heavy coming off of Kiambu Road. We're still dealing with just a couple of lanes, likely to increase later, as is the practice, with folks then just doubling up on efforts to get towards Mthaiga Square. So let's see what happens there. Coming off of Limuru Road, not too much of an issue. We're fine through and through. Museum coming in towards the city, or then going out towards Westlands, you're fine. There's some movement on Ngong Road as you get towards the city mortuary roundabout, and Huru Highway is already starting to get a buzz. We'll watch and see what happens here. It looks good on the southern bypass. You might want to think about that. Let's take a look quickly at what's going on in Lavington area, because we know then you're going to spill over towards Red Hill to then get towards the city. For now, it does look good. Ring Road Western's free and clear, no traffic. Now's the time to get on it. Let's see what happens as we get through into traffic hour. Good morning, SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay. Sexual abuse in schools is a story apparently that is being carried by the nation today. So let's have a look at that. There's a combination of things happening, but I would like to look at this story about the school fees before we get to the silent epidemic, if you'll excuse me.
Okay.
Schools snub state directive and send learners home for fees. Secondary schools have started sending students home over fee arrears, even as the principals claim their institutions are severely strained due to capitation challenges. All right. The Kenya Secondary School Heads Association National Chairman Willie Kuria and its officials met with Basic Education Principal Secretary Dr. Belio Kipsang, who promised that money will be released this week.
Okay.
However, the funds are yet to be paid to schools. After the government forced parents to pay fees through e-Citizen, schools have not yet received 50% of the capitation due for this term. Oh my God. We're talking about a term that started 9 weeks ago. Just for your information.
Yes.
Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mashogu is on record warning head teachers not to send learners home over fee arrears, a directive that has gone unheeded. So the term began on the 8th of January. Today is the 11th of March. 50% of capitation that was supposed to have been sent to schools for this term has been what? Not sent.
Okay. 50%.
Not sent.
50%.
Yani, we will send you 50% in Mwanze. Even that one has not happened. Okay? Mr. Kuria, who is also the principal of Muranga High School, said it was difficult to run schools because many suppliers had refused to give credit to the institutions, while salaries for non-teaching staff were yet to be paid. Remember that they already had backlog from last year. So these same suppliers, unless you're going to go and get into a different band of suppliers, have basically told schools, sorry, we ain't doing that again. According to Kuria, schools are in serious disarray, and it seems that the challenges of unreleased capitation funds are far from over. However, we met with Dr. Kipsang on the 7th of March, and he promised that capitation would be released by the middle of next week. That's this now week that we are inside. Kuria said day schools were finding it particularly difficult because they are totally dependent on capitation, and 70% of the students learn in these schools. On the issue of the education reform bills, he said Kesha is preparing a comprehensive memorandum to present to Parliament. But now, schools, you can say whatever you want. But if you don't send them the money that they need to operate,
they cannot operate.
And their children in school, they cannot operate. So, if you are not able to bring the fees that they ask you to bring, they're going to send your child home. So which do you do first? Do you say wait?
This is day schools are paying fees.
Okay, so now no. So
in this country we have free day secondary school.
Now there is some money you pay
for it to be free.
For it to be free, you pay some money. Sindio, ama kununua bairo. Sindikisha kitabu. So now that's sindikisha money. Kama mlipi, stay at home. Do you understand?
We have free day secondary school, right? Again, I repeat, in this country.
Boss.
It's free.
Yeah?
It's free.
It's free.
After you pay that money.
Meanwhile, 70% of students are in these schools.
City, you were chairman of a board of a day secondary school. Was it not? Why were you charging school fees?
I wasn't charging school fees. It's the government that was charging school fees.
What do you mean?
I found people paying fees.
Were you aware that there is free day secondary school?
I had been told there was such a thing. But as I didn't witness it, I believe that it must have existed somewhere.
Was there money that was coming for capitation for children?
Yes.
What was it supposed to cover?
It's cover basics.
And so what was your school fees now covering?
The other basics.
2.0. Sasa, easy basics 2.0. We need you to pay. If you don't pay, you must go home.
But children were never sent home because of school fees.
But now they're being sent home.
They were sent home to go and bring their parents so that we could talk.
Go and talk.
Yes, tell your parents to come because the child doesn't pay fees for themselves. So you bring the person who pays fees so that we can understand the problem.
Please excuse me. The thing that
no, excuse you. Let me tell you, as you are excused, a decision by some schools to disallow learners with fee arrears back to school after the half term has found its way where? Court. A newsletter by St. George's Girls Secondary School in Nairobi led to the filing of the suit by a parent who is now seeking the intervention of the High Court. In the suit, the parent has named the Basic Education PS, the school's chief principal, the board of management, the attorney general, and the teacher service commission as respondents. The school, in a circular dated February 27th, directed parents to clear fees on or before March 4th. The newsletter indicated that no issue of fees will be discussed on reporting date to ease congestion. You're coming back. We are not discussing fees. Don't
even come.
Just stay there. The learners were reporting back to school on the 5th of March. One of the parents has since moved to court to challenge that decision. Through lawyer Felix Mukaya, in a suit filed at the High Court in Nairobi, the parent claims the school has the practice of not admitting students with fee balances, including an alleged illegal remedial and development levies whenever the students break or close. St. George's Girls Secondary School is a public school whose development is catered for by the Ministry of Education. When presenting their budget proposal, their petitioner is concerned why parents who pay taxes that run the same school have to pay additional money for development.
Again, there is money that the government gives schools for that very same development.
Okay.
Yes?
And then?
Excuse me. You see that money you're talking about?
Which one? This one for money for development.
It's usually 5,000.
For money for development.
For the last 1 year.
5,000 per child.
Yes.
Okay.
For the last 1 year, the ministry has withheld that money.
The last?
1 year.
Okay.
That 5,000 has been withheld. It is only last week that they had this meeting back and forth where they said, okay, sour.
But a school like St. George's is already developed. Why do they need
But
money every year
development
for
is
develop what?
Development is continuous.
What have they been developing for the last 10 years?
Kabro imiharibika lazima.
Even infrastructure repair. You see, there's a different money for that. There's a different money for repairs.
Now that 5,000 development.
That money you can even build if you want, if it's enough.
They've not been receiving it at schools, right?
Yeah.
For the last 1 year. Last week, there was a meeting and they now said, it was one CS Mashogu himself who now said, Sawa, what we'll do, we'll now get the capitation back to 22,000 as opposed to be the 17,000 that you've been receiving. Misawa. Then everybody said, Sawa. Then they went home.
Skia, in this school, in St. George's, they paid 40,000 shillings as school fees when they got admitted. In February last year, during orientation, parents were asked to pay 25,000 for completion of a dormitory. The input was sought from parents. More input was sought from parents, he says. He noted that the issue of remedial classes also arose and parents were encouraged to pay for it, though it was not compulsory. They are now doing something called remedial classes. You know, remedial. We're not calling it prep. You know, prep has been outlawed. Now we call it remedial classes. Okay? The remedial class is 3,000 bob per term. Are we together?
That's tuition.
Our WhatsApp group was created and a representative elected. Immediately the group was created, parents were asked to pay the 3,000 bob. It's not tuition, city. Tuition has been outlawed. It's remedial classes.
That's what tuition is supposed to do.
It's remedial. Some parents in the WhatsApp group demanded to know from the class rep and the class teacher if the said remedial classes had become compulsory. The response from the class teachers said, just pay, and if you have any issues, just see the accountant. In January this year, in a letter to the PS Ministry of Education, this parent wrote to the school management seeking to know whether the charges on remedial classes were legal. Where our children have been subjected to embarrassment together with their parents who are forced to go back home on opening date due to these unlawful levy balances.
Yes, no.
I was forced to pay 7,220 for remedial and misplaced textbooks. The school denied admission to my daughter until I settled that 7,200. And the school does not issue receipts for the payment despite demanding for them twice.
Receipts?
Yeah.
For?
See, for this remedial.
Did the child go to class?
Who knows?
Well, then if you don't know, then why are you asking for receipt? You know, this thing didn't begin now. This thing of teachers finding reasons to charge parents more money for tuitions. The problem was when this tuitioning was institutionalized, illegally of course, many teachers then, not the most, just many, simply didn't teach when they were supposed to teach. They would wait for tuition. For tuition, yes.
Because that would be extra money. But you need to hear the kind of reasoning that is given when parents are being told that, you know,
you're going to pay some extra here.
Extra. Yeah. Look at this thing that you see in this school. Isn't it not nice? Even you as you're seeing it, don't you like it? Are you not happy that your daughters can come and have access to this? Is it not good? Then you say yes. You know, that's how the story starts like that. It's not good. Then you say yes. Look at this large auditorium now where you are seated today. Yes. Don't you feel like you're actually sitting in a place prestigious of, you know? Then you say, don't you feel? You say yes. Yes. Then we move on. For example, you can see we have a vegetable garden. Your children are eating fresh food daily. Farm to fork. Don't you like it? Then you say yes. Like that. Then they say, now, we can actually make life better. Wouldn't you want us to make life better? Then you say, what? We want. Then they say, now, you understand how things are. And sometimes the money that we need to run this place doesn't come from government. So we say, since we are in this thing together, you know, we are partners, we are stakeholders. Don't you think we should now come together and make sure that your daughters are able to experience this?
You know,
so in order for us to experience what we're only asking, only
30,000 shillings.
That is in per what, per year?
Per child.
So if we will be able to do, so that even if...
Is there a conversation about those who are unable?
It is not. I said it's a hall of people you are being spoken to once. So will you hear the people who say no, I cannot?
And because in some schools you'll find that, for example, in extra county national schools, you will find it brings in everybody.
Of course.
There are those children who are completely, and even the current school fees, the parents are struggling.
Eric, beyond that, in the same school, there are students, you see these basic amenities they tell you to bring, toothbrush, toothpaste, you don't have. So it's either Salvation Army or some Kenya something that has branches in all of these schools that provide, you just come and take. You need sanitary towels, you need toothpaste, you need what? You come and take. Buy row to do school, you don't have. So can you imagine now, those are the people that you're telling to bring another 30K per year?
Yes. Do you know, yes, it is the same people. What this speaks to me about is just the disparity with our schools. Now, this is a school that has everything you've said, okay? But there's also another advantage these schools have. They've been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
They have a very, very strong alumni. Very
strong, yeah.
And they do a lot for the school. This Salvation Army, Save the Children, all these troops who you find in these schools would be more needed in some school whose name you can't pronounce in some very remote part of the country, but they're actually not there. They don't have that strong alumni. They don't have a PA that has some genuinely powerful people. And not one, many. It is those same schools where you will find, when you talk of a lab, it means biology, there's lab, chemistry, there's lab, physics, there's lab.
Separate.
Yes, and microscope, which each student can actually use. As opposed to a school where, if they are lucky, there is one lab for everything and one microscope for everything, if they're lucky. There are others who are shown a picture of a microscope. This is a microscope.
This is what we would have been doing.
Yes, and this is what a microscope will do for you. This one is a picture of a Bunsen burner. Or some kind person has brought them some of these kits. It's in a box like a toy. That disparity is our reality. So even as we talk about the things that parents are being charged, there are parents who, or there are places where almost a half of the parents cannot actually pay fees. They do not want to pay fees.
They are unable.
They cannot pay the fees.
They can't.
They cannot.
And yet, every year, billions, hundreds of billions of shillings is earmarked by government
for education.
Biggest.
When we say that there is free primary education, free day secondary education, a majority of schools in this country are day schools.
Yes, they are.
You would assume that 70% of students in this country are going to secondary school for free.
Yes.
And then now you see all these problems, and you see clearly not.
No, it's not free. It's not free. Is that not the problem, my friend?
No, it's a big issue. It's a very big issue.
And then you wonder why it is when you're talking about the unfairness of the education system. It's right there. And so there are people, depending on where you come from, the region that you are in, despite all the billions that is allocated to education, there are some people who are condemned never to do very much with their lives. Literally condemned.
It's very unfortunate.
It is extremely unfortunate. But what I consider to be the most unfortunate thing is they all have leaders who get the same money as other leaders across the country for such matters.
Yep.
And yet nothing happens. The single biggest budget item in our budget
is this one.
And then you hear problems which are even more than the budget itself, and you're wondering.
But let me ask you, seriously speaking, we're in the 10th week of the term.
Yes, we are.
You've not even sent the money, the 50% that you said you would. How do you expect, you who is the guardian authority over education, how do you expect that they're operating? We've come off a term whereby there was still deficit. We've entered into a new one and we're still in the same story. It doesn't look like it's going to get better. If anything, it looks like it's going to get worse. That year after year after year, that 54 billion shillings, which has not gone out to schools, 54 billion has not gone to schools. But guess what? every year you just keep piling. And then here we want to say that a proper education is being delivered. Is it?
Yes, that's what we want to say.
Now, let's talk about our health system, okay? You see, this education that we talk about, Kenya pays a lot of money to universities for the training of doctors, okay? Because training one doctor costs a lot. So when you see the school fees that the university students are charged, especially those who are taking medical courses, it's not commensurate with how much it actually costs to train one. So we spend a lot of money to train doctors. At the end of the 6 years of med school, you are supposed to have 1 year mandatory internship in a health facility, okay? Then and only then can you be registered as a doctor after you've done the 1 year internship. Okay, so every year people come out of university, they go for internship, and then now that's when they're registered as doctors. An intern,
when you pass
your
internship,
an intern works under the supervision of a doctor. We have very many interns in our public health facilities. Actually, 27% of health workers in public facilities are medical interns. 27%, more than a quarter of the people you'll find in our public facilities are interns. We have some 4,000 interns who are waiting for deployment. Okay? Come July, some 4,000 new guys will be joining. The ones who've been there have not been employed. There's a crisis. And that's why now doctors are threatening to go on strike. Because interns have withdrawn their services. They're saying, now, surely now, what are we doing? Right? We're not getting absorbed. There's a crisis meeting today at the Health Ministry to address this particular matter because KMPDU, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, has issued a strike notice. They are going on strike. They are saying we are downing our tools as all medical workers in support of our interns because we know we were all interns at some point.
We get it.
The Health Ministry has been saying, for us to deploy these interns, we need 4.9 billion shillings. Na sasa hapo kuna shida. So there's a crisis unfolding and there's a standoff here because now you've served as interns, you're just being used by the system and you're not being paid. You're not being absorbed. You're still an intern. So what are you doing? So you've now finished your 1 year, you've registered, now you're still being considered as an intern here. So what's happening? And the doctors are like saying, you know what, forget this whole story. Yeah, forget it.
And they should. Because you cannot tell me that when we had these Kenyans in college, in university studying, that the needs assessment for this cadre of professional had not been factored in. And you know full well before they can actually work, their process they must follow. You're saying this was not planned for. We are now being told we need billions of shillings. What is the matter with these people?
Who knows? Who gets
There's money for everything else except the things which are important.
Exactly. Who understands?
And we are rolling out universal health coverage. And we are starting off with these kind of things.
Imagine. It's a crisis. It is. Universal health coverage, whereby you would say that the folks who are going to deliver healthcare at the very basic level, for whom, guess what? For where your contribution comes from. You as Kenyans today. And then you say, you know what, at that very basic level where you need at the very least a clinical officer and a nurse, maybe as you get to level 2 a doctor, right? We're saying that you're not even ready, or maybe in this case willing, to ensure that that social infrastructure is there. Why would you do that? You know what the structure is supposed to be. You know that at some point somebody's supposed to move from intern to the next level, but you keep them there because it is beneficial to you to do that, and not to them, and not to the system.
Is it not the same thing
ridiculous.
With the education ministry? There are all these people who are trained to be teachers. We need teachers. Schools need teachers. And yet, we keep talking about the number of teachers who are unemployed.
Because we don't have money
to
be able to employ them. Meanwhile, Parliament has just added itself some 2 billion shillings in the annual budget.
Our money, just 2 billion is what we need.
If that 2 billion went to hire teachers, if that 2 billion went to actually absorb doctors, how much further would we be helped? Can we just close parliament and all that money goes to people? We can do with the 66 guys in the Senate. Can they become National Assembly and Senate and everything else? These are 290. No, 345. Wakwenda nyumbani. Funga hiyo kitu. Hiyo pesa yote we put in health.
For goodness sake. Let me tell you something. And it's going to sound like doom, but it's the truth. This universal health coverage, with the things that are going on right now, it is going to flop.
It flopped already.
It is not going to work. Not because it's a witch's cry, but look at the building blocks for the thing. It's half-baked chips of wood, it's half-baked bricks, and then you want to put a building up. What do you expect is going to happen? It's going to come crashing down.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Can't build castles in the sky.
UHC is dead.
Come on.
Ruto and his government will receive the money that they are getting from employers and employees. Okay?
They will.
But UHC rollout
Not going to happen.
The way it's starting, they don't even know where CGO. They don't know the regulations. We know now which hospitals. We don't know which ones have doctors. Which ones don't have doctors.
But this confusion is deliberate. I don't think it's just happening.
Definitely.
I hear people saying
there was no intent to roll out this thing properly. There's no evidence of intent, because usually if there's intent, you will see it. Look at what's happening here. And the people today, see, you want to cook food, the chef is not in the kitchen. What do you expect?
Unangoja nini?
Hey.
It's like jokers.
Come on.
It's a complete joke. So there's a ministry meeting today and union officials. Let's see what they're told. Yeah? They'll be told something. Yeah. The U.S. Secretary for Defense has called our president and is like, hey, boss. See, now that guy came and you guys signed. The guy who is the prime minister, Ruto must have asked. But then where did that guy go? You don't worry where he went after he left Kenya. But then, when are you sending the soldiers? There's police.
Meanwhile, as you're asking where you're sending the soldiers, sisi tunatoa watu wetu.
Yeah. Meanwhile, US is evacuating embassy staff amid escalating gang violence in Haiti. Huh?
Yeah. Where are your guys? Us guys were leaving.
No, we need to go there so we can pacify this country. Yeah. We will have a conversation with the rebels. Get there.
It's like a circus.
Yeah. Anyway, keep it here for more conversations. Coming up in the next hour, the Cabinet Secretary for, it's called what? Public Service Delivery and?
Gorgeous, Jolly.
Moses Kuria. He'll be here. He launched the Moses Kuria Foundation with some football tournament in Nyeri the other day.
Public Service Performance and Delivery Management.
Performance and Delivery Management. He's our next guest. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a dear, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We just heard on the floor of parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi Ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's a land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll
continue. A few minutes after 7 and starting to build in the city on Jogo Road, getting out towards the city stadium, roundabout, very busy. Then State House Road, traffic started there very early this morning, and we're still seeing some of that going out towards Valley Road through Processional Way on one side, and then the other direction towards Mamlaka, and then out through Arboretum, and then into the city via Chiromo. All right, also busy on Limuru Road. That traffic is starting to build up. Limuru Road in both directions is doing the thing right about now. The Thika Superhighway buzzing with a lot of traffic this morning. It's bumper to bumper all the way in from, my goodness, Sitam Kasarani, coming out even further than that from Githurai. Heavy through to the city this morning. We're getting into traffic hour early. Let's see what happens as we do. Help us out. Tell us what's going on where you are. And how about we talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
4
day.
minutes after 7, good morning and welcome to a new week. It's the 11th day of March 2024. How was your weekend? Hoping you had a good one. Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, on YouTube, and on Facebook. EcoBank reminds you that a better way, a better Africa is the way to go because...
Look, imagine 35 different markets in Africa. That means a market per country, and there are 35 of them around the continent, and there are 4 more around the world. Why is it a better way? Well, if you're plugged into the platform, it doesn't matter where you go. You can continue with your banking as though you never left. You can pay your bills, you can continue with your business transactions because you have that one account, and you can let mobile banking help you along the way, regardless of where you are. And obviously, if you don't have to change the setup or structure of your account because you travel, it's a better way. And because it's a better way, it's a better Africa.
Kabisa. City,
yes, please.
What's your plan?
Well, my plan, as I keep saying, is to continue planning. But I'll do it a lot better if I have someone helping me plan. Yes, and especially when it comes to financial matters, when it comes to health matters, whether it's matters of looking into the future, I need a partner who can actually help me because this is something they are better versed in than I am. And I think that's where our good friends EALA come in.
This is where they come in.
This is where they come in. Yes.
In fact, when you're talking to the gentleman at the Man Enough next time, when you're telling him to finish well,
you plan.
Finish well. For you to finish well, you must plan.
And you must have a good plan.
You must have a good plan. ICA Lion says, come and talk to us, and you can email them plan@icealion.co.ke, or you can visit their website. They have a very beautiful microsite, plan.icealion.co.ke. That's plan.icealion.co.ke. Go in there, you'll be able to chat with them. They have a chatbot and it's active. It's actually manned by a human being on the other end. It's not a AI generated. Thank you very much for getting in touch with us. We will normally respond within the day. We will respond within the day. No, they will respond. Okay.
Then and there.
There and then, and they'll be there and they'll tell you, okay, so let's talk about your plan. Can we come and visit you? Can you come and visit us? Can we sit together? Can we sit at a table? And the whole thing that ICA is saying is, your plan is what is important. And we will make ourselves work to suit your plan. All right? The Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Performance and Delivery Management is the Honorable Moses Kuria. He's our guest for the next hour. Waziri, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Happy New Year. We haven't seen you this year.
Not just this year. I don't even think last year.
Buana, even last year you were too busy for us.
And yeah, I was last year during the campaigns, I remember.
Buana. How are you?
I'm well. I cannot complain much.
Yeah?
Yes.
You're delivering.
I am delivering and I'm making people to deliver. Delivering is not enough. Mine is to just deliver by making people deliver, assisting people deliver.
Right.
Assisting. Yeah. But good to be back here. And this wonderful, great team.
Karibu sana.
I must say in another life, after reincarnation, I'll be a radio guy.
Oh, yeah? Any idea when that'll be?
Well, hopefully not soon.
Okay.
After reincarnation?
After reincarnation.
That's when you want to be back.
But Waziri has a point. Given his career that he has chosen for quite a while now, I don't think there is a better school for training someone to come and do what we do here. Because now he'll be speaking from a position of knowledge.
No, but I'm just saying you know, in one of Eric's previous life, we used to have a regular show.
Yeah.
I think it was it on Sundays?
It was on Sundays.
Sundays at
Talk 360, yes.
Talk 360. I worked with him for close to 2 years. And I loved it, you know. I think if you ask me, radio is a jacuzzi of sorts compared to, you know, TV, for example. And that's good for conversations,
Very good. City.
Yes.
Welcome, Waziri, with the day's proverb. This week, the proverbs are from?
Seychelles.
Seychelles.
Yes, the island country of Seychelles.
Okay.
You may not know this, but it got its independence from the UK in 1976. Just the other day, here. Now, the thing that you'll find peculiar and interesting about it is, it has a population of just slightly more than 100,000.
100,000 what?
People. Not trees, not blades of grass.
Not iguanas. Human beings.
People. They are
100,000.
They are not many.
Okay.
They're
not seashells.
No, not she sells seashells by the seashore. Not that one. No. The people are not many.
Okay.
A beautiful island. The capital is called Victoria. You'll want to know who the president is, isn't it? And then I'll tell you in the next hour.
Okay.
For now, the proverb. A dog that lives in the bend of a river never tires of lapping the water.
A dog that lives
in the bend of a river never tires of lapping the water.
In the first hour, you said something about a brook city.
Yeah. I did not say brook.
Well, you did, and that's how we started saying, what's the difference between a brook?
I did not say brook.
What did you say?
I know I said brook, but I'm going to deny I said brook.
Because you told us about a dog that lives by the brook.
Yeah.
Yes, that was me paraphrasing.
So this one is in the bend of a river. What is the bend of a river?
All right. It's actually, let me read it again so that we understand each other. I'm delighted that the two of you are alert.
Okay.
Can I read it now
Please
instead of paraphrasing?
Okay.
And ad-libbing.
All right.
A dog that lives on the bank of a brook never tires of lapping the water.
Let's just come to you.
Yeah, because
whether it's a band of a brook or a river.
You guys are kidogo elite. I'm a villager. So for me, he roast me because if I go and tell my villagers about that dog, then the next thing, umetuita mbwa sasa. So I wouldn't even think beyond that. So let's leave it at that.
Okay. Can you leave the ban out?
Okay.
And just
Say river.
No, brook. It's actually brook.
In this country, it's a brook. Now Moses will go and tell his people.
Okay, river. Okay,
Sawa.
river.
A dog that lives by the river,
yes,
will never tire.
Yes, of lapping
in
water.
In
Yes.
water.
Yes.
Aye, Waziri, now you can interpret that one.
Well, there's a Swahili proverb that says, mgaga na upwa hali wali mkavu. Meaning, you know, that guy who is, I don't know exactly whether it's by the seashore, but I think it's something very, 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 very close to this one. So I'm sure what Titin is saying is something about we are very, by the way, even where I come from, there is some many form of saying that. But I think that's a story for another day.
Okay.
As long as you're there, you will.
Yeah, something will come by.
Something will come.
Actually, this is the beauty of these interpretations. You can never imagine how someone is going to interpret a proverb. When they interpret it, you had never thought of it, but you say, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, because you are not translating a proverb.
Yes.
You are translating grammar.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, we saw you over the weekend. You were in Meru, and there was the Moses Kuria. Was it football tournament?
Yeah, I've seen.
And it's been there covered in the news. Prior to this, you had promoted and said you're going to have leaders coming in. You're going to have the deputy president among those who attend. You're going to have many people coming to the ground. And then we saw many people came to the ground. Some did not come. How was it though? What was it all about?
The tournament that I am coordinating or sponsoring within that region. You know, we've had similar tournaments. We had one in Western Kenya. Cleophas Malala was doing something there. Before then, Kipchumba Murkomen was doing something for Rift Valley. And
Eliud Owalo in
Nyanza. So it's just a way of everyone giving back for their region.
Even us guys are doing the Moran's Golden Cup in Kajiado.
Absolutely. So that's the thing. But then for me, within the region that I chose where I come from, 11 counties from Nakuru all the way to Isiolo, 66 constituencies. So a lot of trying to tie up the football thing, and now the problem that we are facing now on the fighting illicit brews and drug abuse within our youth. Some people had this approach of forceful approach and this kind of thing for those young people. And I was of different opinion. I said that you don't need to condemn them, and you can actually mobilize them for positive change. In my tournament, before the weekend matches, you win points two ways. You win points by winning football, and every week you have to do a community service project. And you have as a team. And then you have to do some counseling, peer counseling of each other on these issues of drugs. And photos, we are sending some people to some adjudicators to go and verify that's happening. So that, you know, it's not as a football thing, but trying to get these young people to take charge of their own lives and to be their brothers' keepers, and it's working great in terms of that. And of course, that messaging, which I think for me, I chose the soft messaging as opposed to the hard messaging. Does it mean that the hard messaging is bad? Not necessarily, but I just thought of introducing a new paradigm there, which people can compare.
Why not take this idea of the soft messaging and the hard messaging, combine them so that it is rolled out as one by government? Because the government is going the hard way. Close bars tomorrow. Shut down those second generation liquor manufacturers tomorrow. Stop licensing people tomorrow. It's all gung-ho and go.
Well, let's say, first of all, no one person can say I'm the one who is the owner of this fight, because it is a very serious fight. So I think there's a lot of work, but where are the workers? The Bible says. So I think we need all hands on deck, so nobody can say that you are duplicating what I'm doing, because this is a huge problem. I think it's going to be a synthesis, and it is only fair that everybody is given an opportunity to test your hard-nosed tactics, for others to test their soft approach. I'm really calling for a third one. There's the intellectual approach, which is really totally missing.
Let me ask the question again, more directly. You took this to Meru County.
Yes.
This is the Meru region. The Greater Meru region is where the Cabinet Secretary for Interior comes from, right? He's spearheading the other approach. The Deputy President is from Mount Kenya region. He is also spearheading the other approach. Why, have you talked to them and told them, guys, how about we also go with this approach?
No, we are talking. We keep talking. Last year, we had a conference of this issue in Chuka, which the Deputy President chaired, and I did announce some proposals for legislation, which were able to be carried through the finance bill. And this year I'm doing the same, because I think that route of legislation is some intellectual approach, and I'm also doing this other one of the soft approach, and somebody else is doing the other one. I think there's going to be a meeting point at some point. Does it have to be at the beginning? No. But because nobody is really sure of, so let's call it also some work in progress or some experimentation. Who knows? Maybe the Buduki one will work. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe the soft one of counseling these young people will work. Who knows? Maybe, let me just give you an example. I believe that one of the biggest contributors to the illicit brews is our taxation structure. I believe that, for example, if you look at those spirits, because I sat with KRA people and we did the number crunching. And we established that the kind of spirits that are being sold in those villages, for 250 ml, the bottle, that is the most frequent, the popular, packaging, the cost is 250 shillings. So if you find someone who is selling that bottle for less than 250, certainly, one, he's not using the right ingredients. Two, meaning that it's outright poison. Or two, he's not paying taxes. Or three, it's both. So I keep saying, because I've challenged even these security guys, because this is scary, and we have done our math. So I've challenged them and I've told them, perhaps, even before you look at anything, let the police, and I said this last week in Embu, let the police go all over and look for anyone who is selling this bottle for less than 250 and invite them for a cup of tea at the police station so they can share their formula. Right. It's an open shut case. That's what I'm calling the kidogo, tukitumia akili kitu kidogo. We'll find some solution. Number two, to make that spirit, you need ethanol. So ethanol comes. So what happens is that when ethanol comes in, the one who brings in the ethanol or who buys the ethanol, if you are a distiller, you have to pay excise duty on ethanol or the input. Then you go and convert that into alcohol, into spirit, and then you sell. And then the at the point of production, you've bought some stamps from KRA to pay excise duty now on the final product. Then when you're slapped with the invoice for the excise duty for the final product now, you say, wait a minute, I had already paid
input excise.
Exactly, input excise. So deduct. Do you know what? The guy of the output does not ask. There's no system connecting the output tax from what they are claiming as the input. So most of the time, these guys have not paid the input tax, but they still get it as a deduction. So meaning it's KRA who is subsidizing illicit brews. I'm very clear on that. I'm going to put some legislation in this finance bill to stop the input tax, so that when you pay the output tax, there's nothing to claim back. So there's nothing to subsidize this illicit brews. And you know what? Having a tax which is not being claimed back, there is something called the ease of tax administration, meaning the KRA's work is simplified. Because you can imagine all these calculations, you know, it's so complicated. So I am calling for also that track, where we use our minds kidogo and ask ourselves, what is the root cause that has contributed to this, and how can I have long-lasting solution? You know what? It's not the first time bars have been closed.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not the first time that a country is having this conversation.
No.
When you're a member of parliament, you are having this conversation.
We banned, Uhuru Kenya centers all over.
In Kiambu, you guys did.
I was taken to court. And so I was many people, Fernando Itito and all that. We used to have many meetings. And that was the entire political class, coming together on this or whatever. So, sometimes, you have to fight the battle with different, tactics, weapons and strategies. And this particular time, I am convinced that we need a soft approach, like the ones I'm doing on the football. We need an intellectual approach, that one looks at the root cause of the matter. And maybe there's a place in heaven for everyone,
so are you saying,
including brute force.
Sure. I mean, just quickly on that then, Waziri, are you then saying that, so this blanket approach to shut everything down, close it down, is not going to work?
I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm just, let me say, put it this way, that the jury is out. But I believe that sometimes we need to be very cognizant of, sometimes it's very good policy, but sometimes even unlike what the Bible talked about, new wine in old wineskins that cannot coexist, I still do believe that we can have coexistence. And I think that's the biggest challenge to policy implementation. Do you shut off completely from old to new? And everything we're trying to do is right. I can tell you, I'm more than convinced from where I sit. But the implementation needs to be cognizant of the need to avoid disruptions. Because even the wonderful things ought to be, calibrated in such a way whereby, there's not a one time you shut off the country to implement change. At Ukuta imeandikwa kwa notice board of the country, Kenya is closed for renovation. No, it can't happen. So since we have to coexist old and new, then I think that needs to have some tampering with some patience.
Mheshimiwa, the efforts that are being made are clear, and as you say correctly, so it's not the first time. 2015 was also not the first time. This issue has been there with us for the longest time. But the question that one keeps asking, because those who are young in 2015 are no longer young now. Those who are young in an earlier time have become older. What is it that is bringing this about? Is it that what is being consumed is addictive? Is it that many young people have a lot of time on their hands and they do not know what to do with it? Is it that they do not have jobs and these illicit brews are considered significantly cheaper? What is it that is making it? Because in the absence of the demand for this alcohol, the problem would not be there.
So let me put it this way. First of all, we are the problem. I don't know from where we created this activist economy or activist country. Everybody is an activist. I'm saying this because I have to compare our country with other countries. Because I travel a lot. I have lived in countries. How come there is not this problem in other countries? How come it's only a Kenyan problem? It's because, first of all, other countries, there's nothing like absolute freedom, even for countries which are more democratic than ours. But now ours, everybody want to have rights of small pets, everybody want to have their own set of rights, so-called rights, So that to put law and order becomes extremely difficult because we over exaggerate this entitlement to rights, especially after the 2010 Constitution, which is a very progressive document. But everybody, because we came from an era of mistrust where nobody would trust another. Oh, disability, unajua tumefinywa in the past, so now we want our space. Oh, women, oh this, oh that. Let me tell you something. I am the minister in charge of public service. And sometimes I try to strengthen public service because I am the one to come here on media and you ask me a question about public service and how performing. Then, in our own activist thinking, we made the Public Service Commission a completely independent. So my hands are tied. Much you'll come here and ask me about reform. But because we came from this culture of, like, it will be biscuits, rights have to be dispersed left, right, and center like biscuit. So the flip side of that is the rule of law. And that's exactly why we have this particular problem. That, hebu jaribu kuguza hiyo. Hapana, unaingilia hawa, unaingilia wale wengine.
Wait.
So
are you saying that it's because of these rights that people are turning to alcohol?
No, I'm just saying that you could have a better regulated industry. Alcoholic beverage industry.
Okay.
But because of the mindset of the country is, if you try to put order, you are trampling on somebody's right. So it has been historically been very difficult to bring law and order. Like people are saying.
But why are people turning to alcohol?
I'm coming to that. I'm saying before you look at that, people will always turn to alcohol. Did you see? Are you a Christian? I think you're a Christian.
I am.
Don't you know they ran out of wine? It was an emergency.
Jesus' first miracle.
People are saying, Ebu, give me some airtime, I want to call Jesus. It is it's the first miracle, People will always turn to alcohol. Remember the story of Cain and Abel? Yeah? What did Cain do? Why was he cast? He looked at the nakedness of his father when his father was drunk. That is as old as, in the Genesis of the Bible. So, what I'm saying, Eric, you can look at it from the point of view of consumer and the point of view of the producer. So, why people take alcohol, that is a consumer issue. But more often than not, you'll find that what is likely to be under your control is the producer side, not the consumer side. That's why I'm talking about that legislation on removing the excise duty on ethanol. That's why I'm talking about that environment for clamping down, because you can only work on the producer side. The consumer side is so difficult to work on.
Why?
Because of human nature. That's number one. Number two, let's look at our workforce structure. People who are above working age, do you know how old they are? How many they are? 19 million out of our 53 million. So let's track them, where they are. 1 million is like me, who are paid by
government,
by you.
Taxpayer.
Hakuna government.
State and public officers.
You, taxpayer, pays me. Okay? So we are 1 million who are lucky enough to sit on your back.
18 million
left. 18 million left. 2 million is like you,
public
guys
sector,
who
private sector,
wear ties and have a pay slip, and you have got, you can speak some fairly good English. You are only 2 million.
16 million left.
16 million left. 6 million, they have somewhere to wake up to. Kibanda, a garage somewhere. They have a fixed abode. Yeah, you can find them somewhere.
10 million left.
And 10 million are for cheering me. If I today I can go to some place in Laikipia called Wiomereria at 11 a.m. I'm not announced I'm going. I don't have even round speakers and all that. I just go and buy a banana in the market of Wiomereria market in Laikipia. Within 1 hour, I'll have a crowd that can be of a sizable political rally. So do you think it's because these people have left their farms to come and listen to you?
They didn't have
I am very handsome. Nothing. They didn't have anything to do. And that's the tragedy of our country. So that as much as we are talking about, this fighting and this policy and all that, let's not lose sight of those 10 people. The only thing that brings them somewhere to some convergence, they work for someone. They work for betting companies. Yeah, these 10 million people. All they do, the only activity that can engage their mind, nikuwekelea. That's the only thing they because they also bet on life. They are good bettors.
So what brings them to that rally is the hope that there could be something that we
No,
put
no,
in
I'm just talking about the idleness.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
So now what we're saying essentially is that we had a conversation in this room about this very thing, and we said, unfortunately, it would appear as though the root cause of the issue is not being dealt with, and it looks like a firecracker kind of approach, whereby we're not looking at those 10 million people who do not have a solid source of employment, who have gone through some kind of trauma at some point where they don't have anything to come in during the day, where they don't have a source of income. And so it's frustrating. And the very little thing that they'll get for some of the comments that we see here, 50 shillings, 20 shillings, can drink something that will either turn them blind or kill them before the day goes out. They're drinking this stuff every day. But there's a reason why they're drinking it.
Absolutely. That's why even I've been saying for some time, if you go to the US, there are those things where there cannot be a Republican or a Democrat. If you come to issues of security, issues of even basic freedoms, there's some terrorism, there's some things when it comes to those issues, it's issues of Israel, there stops being Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives. All those borders collapse. So those things are what I call uniquely American. So what are the things that are uniquely Kenyan? That you can agree. This none. That's a problem. Where we say this one, doesn't matter whether you are government or opposition. I don't know Kenya Kwanza or Azimio. This issue of, if there was such a list, I would say anything touching on these 10 million people should not have this party or that party, this side or that side, because it is the biggest existential threat that we have as a country. So if I have my way, I would say for these 10 million people, listen, we are now arguing about housing, whether to have housing or not. We as in Kenya Kwanza, we believe we are doing housing, not because of housing, but because of these 10 million people. So it touches on 10 million people, That should have been, in my opinion, the first item on these NADCO discussions. It should have been about Project 10 million, yeah? Because Project 10 million cannot exist in a polarized political environment. Because it is so easy to do what is expedient, what is short-term, what is populist. Because we are competing. We're competing for power. But if we could say, let's quarantine anything that is for these 10 million people, then I'll raise my hand and say, okay, my housing, put it there. Then I will say, my industrial parks, in my other job, because of these 10 million people, I want to give them jobs, put it there. I will say, my labor migration, when I'm, trying to get some of them out of this, a surplus base, let's put it there. Then somebody from Azimio will come and say, something of fishing boats because of somewhere, put it there. Then we say, this is our bundle, this is our package now. Watu wa livestock waseme hapana, anything touching on livestock is contributing to the 10 million. Then we create a national bundle. I guess that's what Vision 2030 was supposed to achieve. Whereby we say there are things that are uniquely in our national interest that we cannot quarrel about. But because of that, and that's where I really blame our broken politics. We cannot have consensus even on what is coming to swallow us, to completely decimate us. Because look at Nairobi, my friend. Look at Nairobi. What is Nairobi? Nairobi is one big slum with some sprinkles of some two greens. You look at Karen. What is Karen? It is Kibera Annex. You look at, Kitisuru. Muthaiga is Madale Annex. You look at Kitisuru, Rolesho. See, that is Kagemi Annex. We are just one big slum.
Runda is Kitokoro Annex.
Runda is Kitokoro Annex. Yeah? So it is really, I'm saying this for the middle class.
25
it's an
minutes
existential threat for us.
Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria is our guest this morning. He says he has a big political prophecy. We want to hear that prophecy after this break. Keep it here for that. Good morning. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Welcome to the Delight Nakuru by Username Investments, going only for 799,000 shillings for an eighth of an acre. There's borehole water, estate gate, graded access roads, electricity and other social amenities. SMS plot to 20321 or call 0725 000 222.
I've got a plan to make my investment sizzle hotter than a Sunday barbecue grill. EALA has a plan for everyone. Talk to us today for a plan that's right for you. Or visit icealion.co.ke. EALA, what's your plan?
Some very nice, mature music.
It really took me back to my days, and I can just feel getting
16 degrees. We'll see highs of 26 and highs of 29 in a sunny Nakuru at 16. It's 14 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 27 through Monday, and Eldoret sunny at 15. We'll see highs of 26. It's sunny at 28 in Mombasa and sunny at 29 in Malindi. Kisumu sunny at 22 with Kakamega 18 and partly sunny. Looking out into a sunny Kampala at 21 degrees. Dar es Salaam is 28 and sunny. 17 and sunny in Johannesburg and sunny conditions in Mogadishu at 28, while Addis Ababa seeing a clear morning at 15. Lagos is clear at 27, going to highs of 34, and it's mostly cloudy at 25 in Kinshasa with highs of 34.
Spice up your life.
This morning is madness. Are you there, experiencing it? Because we're looking at traffic coming in all the way from, where is this? Well up in Githurai, and it's coming out all the way through past Kasarani and then into the city, literally into the city on Murang'a Road. On Limuru Road, I guess after the weekend that everybody gets back to work, on Limuru Road is actually busy as well. Kiambu Road, we're looking at it inching closer to the DCI headquarters junction, and then into the city via Muthaiga Square. Heavy on Wayaki Way this morning. Traffic coming in from James Gishoro spilling over Wayaki Way. We will see that go towards the Red Hill Link Road, and everybody try to find their way from Kabete to Spring Valley, in from Limuru Road, and then joining at some point in Westlands. Look at Ring Road Westlands, bumper to bumper, and it looks like it's getting worse. Mzima Springs coming in from Riverside, Kileleshwa, and then on the other side there's traffic coming in from Naivasha Road, Ngong Road, going towards Riara. So we are in traffic hour proper, and it looks like it's a heavy Monday morning. Talk to us, guys. Do you find a good route? Let us know. SpiceFM KE on X hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
The Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria continues. He has a big political prophecy going forward, which we've been seeing you making some statements and political moves. And people, I've got to ask you this directly. People look at you and think Moses and the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua don't always read from the same page.
I don't
Currently,
know.
Are you reading the same book?
Yeah, I mean, we are one government, isn't it?
Yeah, we are one government. Are you reading the same book?
Yes, of course, we are reading the same book. Of course, sometimes we have different views, but it's different views for people who are in the same direction. Yeah. Remember, it is not easy to have so much to disagree as a government because, one, our roles are very clear. The role of the Deputy President is clear. Our role as ministers are clear. I mean, our roles are in the Constitution. They are defined there. Second thing, we are about the only government since independence to govern by the same book that we used to get into office. You know, I have been part of the previous government from different roles. As soon as we are sworn in, our manifestos become something for the shelf. We are the first government that implements every page. And when you are implementing the same code, the same book, it is not about my view and your view. Yeah? And that makes it very predictable, you know? Because I'm not implementing my views, I implement the Kenya Kwanza plan. The Deputy President implements the Kenya Kwanza plan. All other cabinet secretaries implement the Kenya Kwanza plan. Principal secretaries implement the Kenya Kwanza plan. So our voices can have some as sopranos, bass, tenor, but the hymn book is the same. That makes it very easy when the hymn book is the same. So what you call sometimes disagreement is different voices for the people in the same choir singing the same song from the same hymn book. Lakini sauti zinatofautiana. Yes.
You know, Waziri, what you say philosophically is actually very true. If only we were not discussing a political situation and politicians. The competition that politicians have and politicians compete. One argues that they compete for the soul or the vote of the people because that is the center of power. Others say it's personal differences. I don't see personal differences between you and the Deputy President, but when it comes to political power, unless you're saying that you're completely divorced from that quest of political power.
Well, you know, people come to government from different backgrounds. We have some people who came from private sector, others have served in government. Everybody has a past, and personally for myself, I remember my background. I'm from extremely private sector. I left the private sector to come to politics, even before government. And now I'm in that phase where I'm in government. So a private sector person who transited through politics, landed in government, you will find streaks of that in me. So you'll still find the private sector person. If you look at the way I conduct my ministry, sometimes it is upsetting to other people because I'm not a typical government person. You know, I'm not a typical, this technocrat. So you will still see a lot of my imprint from the private sector. Because you can't take away. I was listening to Ndu and this Albert for the commercial for EcoBank, and I thought you said how many countries? 35 countries. And do you know who heads that mammoth institution? Our very own Kenyan is the CEO, Mr. Jeremy Awori. He left APSA recently and is now the CEO heading those 35 countries, a Kenyan guy. When he came back from Canada in 1996, he was employed at one bank called Standard Chartered Bank, and he didn't have somewhere to sit in the corner. He found a guy who was employed 1 year before him, who gave him a corner to sit. That guy was Moses Kuria. Yeah? Today, so I was a year ahead of Jeremy in the same bank. Today, Jeremy is heading 35 countries. Can you take away from Moses Kuria the fact that the private sector part of him that I would be CEO of EcoBank, for example, because we are peers. Now, you can't equally take away politics from me. And the fact that, those skills from private sector, I use them to do my job. My skill from politics, I use them to make my job as a minister more successful.
And you also to play politics.
Not so? Sorry?
When we look at Moses
I don't play politics. I use politics because it's the same way I use private sector. So when it comes to implementing projects, do you think you'll find me sweating? Because I'm in somewhere in the lip of Karachon.
Moses.
As a politician, I don't know how to navigate.
When we see Moses Kuria Foundation starting the Moses Kuria football tournament in Mount Kenya region, you've told us the 11 counties. How many constituencies? 66?
Yeah, 66.
66 constituencies. And then we also see the Deputy President and the moves that he makes in the region. There's an apparent jostling for kingpinship in this region.
No,
is that the political
you can't equate my tournament to that because I don't know if Malala want to be a Luya kingpin because he did that region, or Owalo want to be a Luo kingpin because he did that region.
Yes, they do.
Or Kipchoge Murkomen, if they wanted to be, I don't want to be neither king nor pin, because all I'm doing is really trying to do. By the way, Eric, and you know me for a long time, 2011, you recall, I can show you the photos. I had a similar tournament. 2011. Similar, Nakuru, all the way. The only new thing is we've added Isiolo, because we thought that they are part of a larger region. They have the same problem. 2011, I was not a member of parliament. I was just somebody assisting Kibaki here and there. I did a tournament in the same region. The final was played in Thika Stadium between Imenti North, who are playing in the exhibition match on Saturday, and Nakuru East. And Nakuru East won 2-0. That was 2011. I was not, same course. Actually, you used to call that tournament Mulika Mulevi, because it was the same course about illicit Bruce. Yeah? That was 13 years ago. Did I want to be a kingpin 13 years ago?
I don't know. Did you?
You tell us.
13 years ago, surely. I was just real, genuine. And that's the problem with this country, because everything is looked at with political lenses.
Which means you're a politician.
Yeah, but politics is not a politics. It's a game about engineers, Pierre. Where do people agree that engineers on Achaga, you stop talking about engineers, you are mesmerized by these people called politicians, media people,
But
doctors.
But Mheshimiwa, it's for a very good reason, because everything that happens in this country is determined by politicians. Whatever their ilk, countries. It's the same.
But no, it's not.
Oh, it is the same.
No.
Politicians, anyone whose position is gotten to by way of an election, meaning you have delegated power. You have power. This is the real thing here. You actually do have power. If you didn't have that power, there is no way people would have known you. There is no way you would have come to the attention of the current political party that is in power. There is no way. But it is because of the manner in which you conducted your politics and the way you went about it. Now, yes, your private sector self came into play because it gives you a certain orderly way of doing things. But the political element is what now pushes for what we're referring to as power. I began by saying, if we were not talking about politicians, everything you say philosophically would be absolutely true. Politicians, I do not know of a politician who does not want to increase whatever power they have. I do not know. If you know one, tell me. And if you are the one, tell me also that it is you.
Well, let me say this. The point I made is that my politics assist my work in government. That is one thing, and it's completely different about whether someone would want to increase political power or not. I'm just trying to say that politics is not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, it's a wonderful thing, though.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a contribution like any other contribution. Okay. I've seen a lot of my friends, wonderful people, colleagues, but they are not from the politics. They bring, like the CS for National Treasury. We have a very symbiotic relationship, because that man is a walking reservoir of knowledge. I've never seen a finer economist than Professor Njuguna Ndungu. But you come now to politics and dealing with people like you, then that's, so we have a butter trade.
Allow me to ask this, So each of you, at the beginning of government, the beginning of this administration, were asked to sign, what would I call them, performance contracts? At that time, you were at a different ministry, right? Now, and what you signed was specific to that ministry. There were things that you were going to deliver, right? So with what was the shuffle or the reshuffle or whatever else, you've now come somewhere else. Did you then re-sign something else? Or was it the overarching principle of what you signed then that would carry forward? That's part A of the question. And then on the other side of it, so after that, are you delivering within the lines that have been drawn for you, and what challenges are you facing that would prohibit any kind of development or progress?
On your first question, once you assign a new responsibility, the first thing that kicks in is collective responsibility, and that government exists in perpetuity. The president is a football coach. He can see you playing in number 6 and ask you to go to number 9, and you cannot do anything about it because you have. That's why you have one coach who makes those decisions. So once you are now given new I was Minister for Investment, Trade and Industry for 11 months. So first of all, when Rebecca Miano took over from me, her first duty is to ensure that she carries through what I signed off. That's your first, that's the unwritten code. So equally for me, I had to finish off what was signed off by not one person, but by 2 people. Because after reshuffle, then I got jobs from 2 ministers. I got my public service job from Aisha Jumo, and I got the performance and delivery bit from Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. So I had now to ask Musalia, what did you sign, so that I help you until the end of the financial year, fiscal year in June. I am obligated to carry out what Musalia would have done for performance and delivery. And that is why you saw me, jumping all over, trying to coordinate delivery roadshows within ministries to ensure that now what I signed, I was responsible for performance contracting, which I am responsible for. I'm responsible for delivery of services, or all our promises, rather, to the citizens across government. That comes to the second bit. So this performance contracting is not really a ranking of the cabinet secretary per se. It is really a ranking of the ministry, because this ministry is more than cabinet secretary. We still have PSs there, we still have directors, we still have the whole bureaucracy that contributes to achievement of the performance contract you sign. So once you are sent there, all you can do is to accelerate. But until you sign yours, you have to be, sensitive to the fact that somebody committed to doing something, and government exists in perpetuity, and we have collective responsibility. In terms of challenges, to work with peers, friends, colleagues, we are on the same level, literally. But by the executive order number 2 of 2023, I happen to be that minister who has to ask everybody a question about performance. When it was with the Prime Cabinet Secretary, it was not a difficult thing, because Prime Cabinet Secretary is in an elevated position. But now for me, I had to maneuver with skill, a lot of skill and caution to ensure that, first of all, it was not difficult for me because I like assisting. I have never done a lot of operational work. I am always a consultant, even in my private sector. So I see myself as a consultant in government. Not a boss, it's a consultant. To come there, I think, Eric, you can do this differently. I think we can be able to first. So that until now, I was able to now plug back to my consulting days and bring the same consulting approach to my work, which made it now easy for me to work with colleagues. Otherwise, a lot of naysayers will be there, a lot of stumbling blocks. Plus also, one of my other big challenges, I find it as a personal challenge, because in private sector, we work by what is right and wrong. But most of the time in government, it's about what is possible and not possible. Sometimes what is right is not possible. It is not. And that's a challenge. You know some of the areas I'm very, very passionate about. For example, I do believe for us to, because of these 10 million people I told you, we need an extra dose of resources coming from outside the country, money we don't have. Not just money moving from my pocket to your pocket. We need money that we don't have. We need money that is abroad with other people there. The process of getting those people to come here and deploy their financial resources so that we can be able to give jobs to these 10 million. The mindset of us here, people, government, everybody. Is as if those people need us more than we need them. Yet we need those people. So you find people establishing blocks, people hiding behind procedure, behind bureaucracy. And someone said, if you're in a hole, stop digging. Because already we are in this hole. We're in a financial hole.
What are you doing to change that perception or that mindset in public service?
It has to be just consistency, Eric. It has to be consistency. Consistent in what you do, being realistic, and being who we are. There's some things which I say, let me give you an example. We now have one huge project called digital transformation. The Ministry of Ednah is doing a lot to, lay fiber, 100,000 kilometers, creating digital jobs, Wi-Fi, hotspots, a lot of fancy good things. But two things I'll tell you. One of my favorite, one of the departments that I look after that is so popular with Kenyans is Huduma centers, which are largely manual. So you think that people will jump in for your fancy digital. But you have to be uniquely Kenyan and who you are. People, that last year alone, 2023, we served 13 million people, individuals, from our Huduma centers. So you might think that, now we are going digital. But still our people
want to go to a physical place.
They still want to be assisted. And you have to carry them slowly, smoothly, and transition them to the other side. I am also in charge of some department known as the National Youth Service. And this was a complete shocker, Eric. I now hereby, in this studio, we just did a recruitment of 50,000 servicemen and women. And I'm going to do another one in June to make it 30,000, 50,000 the next year, and 100,000. That's one of my main things I want to achieve here. Because by the time I came in, it was 20,000. So this year, I have increased by 50% only. But the biggest shock, and I thought I know this country as a politician, when we are doing this recruitment, we put in some conditions. And on the day of recruitment, I had come up with some very fair system based on population, given some assignment of how many people I will recruit from ward, because now we are saying that 80% of the police, of the army, of all this will be recruited from there. So for me, openness and transparency was very important. So on the day of recruitment, like the way I used to visit polling stations, I visited a recruitment center in Kajiado, and there was nobody. I said, haven't you heard what the president and I have said? That we recruit the police and the army and based on this. How come you're not turning up? So the DCC asked me, Mheshimiwa, kuja toka hapa nje, come I show you. Show me the villages. Where do you expect me to get a D from here? D. Oh. Kenya is officially a country of D minus.
Wow.
And that's some reality we have to face. We are officially a country of D minus. That when you even tell people, unataka kwa jeshi, come I recruit, you can't get this in a village. That means as we have got our lofty ambitions, we also have to temper it with the reality of who we are as a people. And that is why we are doing some things and moving so much ahead. And it has happened in the previous government, where, Kenya is growing at 7.1%. But that growth is not being felt by those people. Because those people are D minus people. And your growth structure
starts from D.
Starts from C plus. So you cut off a whole
population.
And those are the people of Kibra, Madare, Kibagare, Kitokoro. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of sobriety is required in this country. Because for us, we can weather the storms. I'm not sure that our children and their children can do the same. The only thing you can give them is a working country. Do you know you cannot survive in this country if you are average?
You've got to be above average.
You have to be above average. But we want a country where even the average can survive.
Mheshimiwa, thank you very much for joining us. People are saying we can't let you go. You said you have a prophecy. You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Prophesy. Where do you see our politics going?
I have seen a lot of people misapply themselves. and particularly on this issue of now that my good friend Raila Odinga is headed to the AU, and I'm supporting really Raila Odinga to the AU because East Africans were not doing very well in terms of global Pan-African leadership. Not at AU, not at our Pan-African financial institutions, African Development Bank, my good friend Adesina, Nigeria. Afri-Exim Bank, the big money people who get money at very concessional rates. Professor Olama, my friend, from Nigeria. Africa Finance Corporation, Mr. Sumeira from Nigeria. So, by the way, two things we have to get this year is East Africa. We must get AUC and we must get African Development Bank because Dr. Adesina's term come to an end in May, in 2025. In May, they have an AGM here in Kenya. And Kenya, we are preparing to put a bid. So to have representation of people of caliber of Raila Odinga in AU is paramount, good for us, good for our politics, good for the place of East Africa. And we will do everything possible to ensure he gets that position. The only problem is that people who have got no bearing of history, they think that Baba is going anywhere. Baba is coming back.
What do you mean?
He'll do 2 years.
2027 he'll be in there
on
the ballot.
Yes.
Why?
In fact, I think the t-shirts are ready.
Why do you think so?
Baba is feeding time. These medias are not very easy. So for him to get something productive to do, it's good instead of wasting a good brain.
Why would he want to come back?
Who?
Baba.
Why?
Why would he want to come back?
Because he was not born to be chairman of AUC. He was born to be a politician in national politics.
Okay.
It's like you make me. It's like you make
do you
me
think
now.
Ruto is aware?
Who?
Ruto, the president.
I think the president is doing something from the genuineness of his heart, and I don't think he's tying this to whatever Raila wants to do with his life. You know, I don't think he's asking what do you want to do with your life. I think he's doing it genuinely. But I've just seen some other, let me call it amateurs, trying to think that Baba is going anywhere. Baba will be on the ballot. And if this time, he's going to call it short. And maybe give it to another East African to finish for him, Kikwete, as he takes care of some urgent business.
Does he stand a chance of beating you in 2027?
Well, let's say there's going to be a contest. Baba has always his constituencies. He always has his constituency. And it's not the first time he's having a rematch. He had a rematch with Uhuru Kenyatta. Let me just say that a contest with Baba is always a very interesting contest, and a contest you cannot write away and wish away. Indeed. Put it down somewhere.
Moses Kuria, Cabinet Secretary, Public Service, Performance and Delivery Management, has been our guest. 4 minutes after 8. Good morning.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
So who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Well. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen. Amen.
So now it's over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, traffic hour, proper, this morning. It's heavy everywhere you look. If you're coming off of Ngong Road and then heading towards Riara and then out onto James Gishuru, it's very, very busy. It's also busy coming off of Mzima Springs. As you get out then towards Waiaki Way, traffic has spilled over to the Red Hill Link Road and it's going then out towards Kuna Road and then Spring Valley from the other direction. Limuru Road is also very busy, bumper to bumper. From Thigiri Ridge, Kitisuru Road, Peponi Road, everybody joins onto Limuru Road and then tries to get out through Parklands into the city. Well, what are you going to find? Jam and more jam. It's also very busy coming off the Thika Superhighway this morning. Unbelievable traffic. It's bumper to bumper all the way from Zimmerman in towards Kasarani and then out through towards Pangani. That's busy. Muranga Road, busy then getting onto the Globe Cinema overpass and then onto Moy Avenue. It's a Monday for the books. Jogo Road is also very busy this morning, so we're going to keep an eye on all of this. If you find a good route to use this morning, how about you be nice and share? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to
It is at 9 minutes after 8. Welcome to the third of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. What's your plan? ICEA Lion is asking you, what's your plan? Do you have a plan? Whatever plan you have, talk to them. You know, for a long time, ICEA Lion has said, for a long time, and we've been in this country for 60 years, so we know what a long time means. Many companies such as ourselves, insurance companies, have just been coming up with products and saying, hey, we have a product, come and fit into our product. And now they've realized, no. Actually, with the demographics changing, with this kind of new generation people, they don't want to be told, I have a product, come and fit into my... No. And they've realized, actually, the better thing to do is probably fit into people's plans. Because people have a plan and everybody's plan is unique. How about you create a plan that suits, or you create your own plan, and then I come in and fit into your plan as your financial advisor, as I walk the journey with you onto realization of that plan. And so ICEA Lion is saying, forget everything else. In fact, we're now going bold. We are now going provocative. And you'll see that if you log on to plan.icealion.co.ke, that microsite, the colors that you find there, bright pink, bright purple, bright what?
Fuchsia.
Those ones.
That one is the pink you're talking about.
You go. Red. And they're saying it's because we want you to know that we are thinking different and we are taking a whole different direction. We are not going to dictate to you what you should do. We want you to dictate to us how we should help you achieve your plan. plan.icealion.co.ke, or you can email them plan@icealion.co.ke. They'll talk to you, they'll help you. Senor?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Moses Kuria has just reminded us that Jeremy Owori is the group CEO of
EcoBank. And you know what it is? Because EcoBank, large banking group, not a group of banks, 35 different markets around the continent. That's 35 different countries and 4 countries outside of Africa. What does this mean? One platform where everybody plugs into, and it doesn't matter where you are, where you go, your banking doesn't have to stop just because you have made a move. You can pay your bills in your local currency and you're on the other side of the continent. It really doesn't matter. You're able to do this and you get it done all the time when you need to, however frequently that you need to. It's one platform, it's plug and play wherever you go. A better way, a better Africa.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of financial matters, because that's what we've just been talking about, plans and EcoBank helping companies across the continent and people across the continent be able to transact easily. Let's talk about bonds, okay? So we know the bonds market, Eurobond, green bond, what bond, but there's something called a gender bond. Did you know about the gender bond, CT?
I'm hearing about it for the first time.
Gender bond. Many people will be hearing about the gender bond for the first time. Those who have heard about the gender bond probably know something or two about the gender bond. And there are many who may not know. Understanding gender bonds and their benefits to Kenyans. Daniel Wilcox is the UK's economic counselor at the British High Commission in the country, and Mary Njuguna, principal specialist for capital markets at FSD Africa. Mary and Daniel, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. That's the hot seats of the Situation Room. Karibuni sana. How does it feel, Mary?
It's good so far.
Good so far. Daniel, does it feel comfortable?
It feels a bit hot.
It's easy. You are here to tell us all about the gender bonds and what they're all about. But then CT will welcome you with the day's proverb. Every week, CT goes to one African country. And then he mines proverbs from that country. He gives us a proverb a day from that country. And the job of our guests is to listen to the proverb and give us your own interpretation of it. There's nothing like a right or wrong interpretation. It's your interpretation of the proverb. This week, City, where are we?
We're in the Seychelles.
The Seychelles.
The island country of Seychelles.
Okay.
One of the smallest countries on the planet. Yes, but nonetheless, a republic and an independent country.
Allah?
Oh, yes.
And the population, again, you said is?
Is in the regions of 100,000 plus. They're not many. They're not many at all.
No, that's not many at all.
Yes.
It's an estate in Nairobi.
Another proverb.
Yes.
A dog that lives on the bank of a brook. No, we said no brook here in Kenya.
No bank, no nothing.
No bank. Okay. A dog that lives by a river. That's better?
Yes.
Okay. You know, these guys are going to be upset with me. That's not what they said, but let's do it. Okay. Never tires of lapping in the water.
A dog that lives by the river never tires of lapping in the water.
Yes.
What's the interpretation of this? Start with you, Mary.
Well, for me, I think what I take away from that is that the dog represents, anyone. It could be you and I. Wherever we are in our circumstances, we need to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in that scenario. So that's how I look at it. The dog is taking advantage of the water. It's not tired of lapping the water. It's not burdensome. So that's what I take away from that. But in my circumstances, in our circumstances, there's always an opportunity to take advantage of, and we shouldn't be tired of that.
Interesting. Daniel, what's yours?
Well, I'd say, water is a pretty fundamental need in life, and having a source of it like that, you're going to need it constantly. So I think there's the being able to take advantage and just have that opportunity to be to have something that's actually needed in you. So it's not just it's an actual necessity. So, yeah.
Well, it's a resource that's available because if the dog didn't live near the water, this activity it's involved in would not have been that easy. So again, you're right. There are resources that are usually at your beck and call, but what you do with it is really up to you. Yes.
That's an interesting one and a good one. What's FSD Africa, Mary?
So FSD Africa is a specialist development agency. We are funded by UK Aid. We were set up in 2012. And what we do, we say our mandate is to make finance work for Africa's sustainable future. What that means really is that Africa has many sustainable development needs, as we know. And the financial markets, we recognize that there are certain challenges that exist in the financial markets which make it difficult for capital to flow to fund these sustainable development needs. So that's a big picture kind of explanation. But what that means for us on a day-to-day basis is that we identify those challenges across the financial market. So our market is, of course, comprised of very many components. And in all those components, there may be certain challenges in the regulatory framework, the policy environment. When it comes to the products that need to be traded on that market, they may not be trading effectively. So we identify what are those challenges, and working with policymakers, regulators, private sector players, and even investors, identify, interventions that may help to unlock those challenges, whatever they may be. And I'm sure as we get into the discussion, I'll be able to get into some of that detail.
Is it to the benefit of the Africans or to the benefit of your benefactor, the UK government?
It's for the benefit of the Africans, definitely.
Why does the UK government have to finance people to look at how to help Africans do their own thing?
Well, I would answer that. I mean, Daniel is here. I know he'll answer part of that question. But what I can say as an African financial sector specialist on the continent, in fact, for us, we are a team that is comprised of various financial sector experts across different markets. So we have our hands and feet on the ground. We understand the markets. And we work with market players to get a solution that is context-specific and very tailored to the markets that we're working in. It's really, you can't get a solution that has come from another place and fix it in the country.
Yeah.
So you need to understand the context, you need to understand what the challenges are. And we really are focused on understanding the challenge to be able to work with the market players to be able to resolve some of those challenges. And so what I would say is that we get funding from the UK, definitely. But in terms of how we work, we consider ourselves very boots on the ground. We understand the markets and we try to find solutions that are beneficial to the markets that we work in.
You know me, I'm always fascinated by financial talks because half the time I don't understand what they're talking about. But now that we have experts here, I am going to seek to understand this thing better. Okay. There's this organization set up to understand needs that the inhabitants of this continent may have and how best that financial need can be met. There's funding from the UK to do this. Okay, so that I understand it. Give an example of a place and how this sort of understanding, coupled with this funding, has interfaced and what it looks like, where it's nestled, and how it's playing out in the here and now.
Okay, a good question. So, very practical example. One of the parts of a market, a financial market, is the regulatory environment. And we know that the regulatory environment needs to work effectively for players to feel comfortable to play in that market, to sell their what they sell as products in terms of financial products, right? So when, for example, we have identified in many markets, and I'll give one example. Let me just, for argument's sake, let me use Nigeria. In many markets, we did an assessment to identify the capacity of regulators to be able to regulate their markets. Are they doing it effectively? Are there gaps? So that included many countries, including Kenya, but I want to use the Nigerian example. In Nigeria, we identified, they shared various challenges that they have in being able to effectively regulate the market as robustly as they need to. And one of those areas that needed to be strengthened is on the human capital side. Just strengthening their human capacity, their the digital capacity, because one thing about regulation, it is a very capital intense, both in terms of human capital, but also in terms of IT. So having identified that challenge, part of our funding went to do that assessment, but part of our funding also went to help them resolve some of those challenges. That included a lot of HR transformation work that was done. So they found that they have a very heavy regulator and maybe some resources were not needed. They were able to really go through a process of early retirement of some of their staff, which was done voluntarily, reskilling, and a whole new HR framework, capacity framework that was developed. But that also is coupled with their IT capacity, which was also developed in terms of their strategy that they need to pursue and bringing on board the kind of systems that they need. And that's already ongoing in terms of getting that on board. And it's a long-term piece of work in terms of when you look at regulatory work, it's a long-term piece of work. That's one example. So I'm giving that as an example to just add some color to what I said. And I hope that helps.
Okay, so given what we're discussing today, let me get from a description or definition point of view. So what are gender bonds?
So let me take one step back because I'm aware that not everyone may know what a bond is. So a bond is long-term borrowing. And long-term here, we are talking about anything above 2 years borrowing by a company or even a country to finance certain objectives. And who invests in a bond? It may be you and I, or banks, or insurance companies, or foreign investors, DFIs. They invest in bonds because they have the capital to deploy. But as an entity that is raising that is issuing the bond, they have to tell us as investors, what are they raising the money for? They will need to tell us, we need to know who is this company, how is it governed, what are the risks of operating in that sector, how is that sector doing? So that's like their contract to us. That's what they are selling. They are telling us who are they and why should we invest. They tell us what rate of return we should expect periodically. So that's a bond. And usually bonds, I think the important thing to say about bonds is that typically, a typical bond may not necessarily tell you in detail how they will spend the money. They may just say that it will be for general purposes, right? Now, a gender bond is a bond that actually tells you that how we will spend this money is in financing gender empowerment objectives. And I can give you examples. So you may have a bank or a financial institution that raises capital, and it tells you as an investor that we will use this money to lend to women-owned and women-led enterprises, for example. Because they have that as part of their business model. They have a women banking line, and they want to use this money specifically for that. And let me also just bust one myth. It doesn't mean that all the funding that goes to all the funding that comes through a gender bond only goes to women. It may actually be channeled to a company that may be owned by men, but generates products or services that actually benefit women.
Okay. So Daniel, how have we seen that bonds, as has been described, how have these particular bonds benefited that we've seen that have been in operation before? How have they benefited and then essentially would give hope to say this is something you can continue to invest in because we've seen the benefit of it?
Well, gender bonds are a relatively new kind of instrument. You'd have heard of kind of climate bonds and green bonds beforehand. I just wanted to, if I can take maybe 1 minute, to take a bit of a step back, because I think the need for bonds in general, or impact bonds, gender bonds and climate bonds, I think there's kind of 4 areas I just want to pick up on. One is there's real development need for this. So the climate ones are really straightforward one. It's CO2 emissions. We need to kind of curb that. We need to get populations that are resilient to climate change. But then you can see it across other development impact indicators, and also within the gender specifically, equality is hugely important. There's a statistic that I just wanted to raise, Kenya specific, that during COVID-19, 50% of women lost their jobs. We need to get those women back into those jobs. And so there's a real development need on that. So there are development issues that need to be tackled. There's a funding need. So the Sustainable Development Goals, which you may or may not know, but these are a range of goals that, basically the globe has signed up to deliver by 2030. From now until 2030, so over the next 6 years, we need another $15 trillion worth in order to meet those Sustainable Development Goals. I think the OECD estimates we need roughly $3.9 trillion annually to meet that. Those big numbers, they're not coming out of the public purse, they need to come out of the private sector. And the good thing is investors are seeking those opportunities. So there are impact investors. There are certain type of investors out there that specifically been mandated by their shareholders or their funders that want to go and seek it out. So there's this thing called 2X Challenge, which the UK helped launch in 2018, which had a goal for gender investing. It had a goal for 3 billion between 2018 and 2020, and it's now mobilised 27 billion. So there's money out there. So there's funding needs and there's money that's looking for opportunity. And this is where a gender bond that can say, here's the bond bit where you can come in, and here's the gender where the impact, and we can kind of show it. And the role of FSDA in this is really providing that framework for investors. And I suppose to your question about the UK's kind of role in this and how we fund FSDA, which is an interesting kind of structure. So I think we've got maybe two, specifically within gender bonds or within bonds generally, two kind of areas that we can support. One is, London is a financial hub. We do have expertise in London on how to deepen capital markets. And that's kind of a structure here. So we can structure bonds and we've got the expertise there. But over the past, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, we've kind of developed a toolkit of instruments, FSDA being one of them. We've got others like GarantCo that can provide guarantees, British International Investment that was funded 70 years ago that can invest in these bonds directly. So we've got a toolkit that we've funded, but the toolkit is very specific, context specific. So I like Mary's interpretation. We do bring the money to a certain extent, and then the expertise is very much the delivery partner.
Okay.
So I think that bond and gender. So I think we've seen in the climate space kind of the real value in this. So there's been, and Mary will be able to give such specific granular detail on specific projects. But you can, renewable energy now has been, the investment going into those spaces is huge. That needed to happen through kind of de-risking the whole sector and being able to show a proof of concept that you can invest in these places and these kind of instruments and they will pay off. And that's the journey that we're going on with gender bonds now, and why this framework that FSDA have developed is kind of so valuable.
Is there anything that's specific to a gender bond that would be different from the green bond, from any other bond, an infrastructure bond, any other bond in the market, that then says, because I'm floating a gender bond, I'm going to get some favorable reviews from the market or treatment by the market because I'm floating a gender bond and not any other bond?
I'll let Mary, but I just want to say one point on this is to say, I suppose from the private sector, we're not doing a favour for the private, or asking for a favour from the private sector. This is a commercial bond, and I think the private sector would be seeking out gender opportunities because we've got statistics that non-performing loans, so loans that get defaulted, are lower in female businesses than they are in male, and generally, so they perform better. Also, a diverse gender portfolio will perform better. So it's kind of economically viable for the private sector to be seeking these out. And I don't know, maybe if you want to kind of pick up on any of the specifics, but I think there's this idea that we're just trying to kind of force a market share. We are trying to kind of make a route for the private sector that wants to get involved. And I think that's exactly what the framework's trying to do.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, so for an issuer of a gender bond, I mean, at the end of the day, you are selling a product to an investor. They will, of course, be looking at many things. They are looking at the return, not just the return, but also there's a reason why they have decided to put their money in a gender bond that has specifically said, of course, the issuer has specifically said that they are investing in certain impact objectives as opposed to any other bond. That is attractive to several types of investors. And that's what we've seen in some of the, like I can mention one of the bond issuances that we've supported in Tanzania. That is NMB Bank. It's one of the large banks in Tanzania. So they issued a bond in 2022. And one of the takeaways actually from that particular issuance is that they find that there are many issuers, many investors, impact investors, international investors, and even some within the region who are interested in putting their money in that kind of an instrument because they know where the money is going and they are aligned to those social impact objectives, for example. And when you look at the overall impact that comes out of that kind of a bond, I mean, one of the objectives, or it's actually a requirement for issuers of these bonds, is that they are meant to actually disclose how those funds have been applied. So there's an added level of, should I say, transparency and accountability to your investors, which is a good thing, I think, and it's a very strong signal of your commitment as an entity that is issuing these bonds to actually meet certain social or even green objectives for green bonds, for example. And what is happening is that there's capital that is actually keen to invest in those. And what we've seen, like, for example, with that bank, they've gone to the market again late last year to issue another bond as well, and a sustainability bond with both gender and green outcome objectives.
Right.
So I would say that...
And they've been successful both times?
They've been successful. They've been oversubscribed, meaning there's
both
demand.
Times.
Yes.
Okay.
And what is interesting with the Tanzanian issuance, what we've been seeing in that market is that actually retail investors have also been very keen to invest in those kind of bonds. Usually, it's institutional investors, the large pension funds or banks, insurance companies that invest. But there, actually, we found that, the majority of the investors were retail investors. More than half of them were women. So that also has its own inclusion story. And that's quite impactful as well.
Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 9. We are having a conversation about gender bonds. Do you know what gender bonds are? That's what we are discussing. Just creating awareness about the gender bonds and their impact on development in countries. Mary Njuguna is the principal specialist for capital markets at FSD Africa. And Daniel Wilcox is the UK's economic counselor at the UK High Commission in Nairobi. Basically, he's the head of the economic development in Kenya. They are here to tell us more about gender bonds. We'll be back shortly after we take this quick break to see what the roads are looking like.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Some very nice, mature music.
It really took me back to my days, and I can just feel and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of SpiceFM.
26 and highs of 29 in the sunny Nakuru at 18, 17 and sunny in Nyeri, the highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 27 as well in a sunny, windy Eldoret at 17. Mombasa this morning is sunny at 29, we'll see highs of 34, and through Monday we'll see highs of 33. In a sunny Malindi, currently at 30. It's sunny at 24 in Kisumu, we'll see highs of 32, while Kakamega will see highs of 32 as well, currently sunny at 20. It's 21 degrees and sunny conditions in Kampala. We'll see highs of 29, while at 29 already, Dar es Salaam is sunny with highs of 33. Mostly clear at 27, mostly clear at 19 in Johannesburg with highs of 30, while it's 30 in Mogadishu. We'll see highs of 33 and highs of 22 in a sunny Addis Ababa, currently at 17. Now into Lagos, it's mostly clear at 27 with highs of 34, and at 25, mostly cloudy in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 34.
Spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
Still pretty heavy traffic on the Thika Superhighway this morning. It's a lot less as you come in from Githurai and then through towards Kasarani. You'll see most of it now just after the Outer Ring Junction, heading out towards Survey and then on towards Pangani and Murang'a Road. So you get to Ngara, and that's all really, really busy. Limuru Road is not looking as bad. Kiambu Road actually seems to be reducing significantly. I just keep an eye on that because it could ebb and flow as the morning continues. Waiyaki Way is busy, and we saw all of this Kitisuru, Lower Kabete, coming in through Spring Valley. Pretty busy right about now. Let's take a look quickly at James Gishero. Not too bad, but Red Hill Link Road has taken on some of that traffic going out towards Kuna Road, so watch out for that. What else is going on? I think just less traffic now that we're seeing coming off of State House. That was busy this morning. And Langata Road, you'll have fair share of traffic as you get towards the Huru Highway. All right, let's see what happens as we come out of traffic hour. In about an hour or so, we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X hashtag, the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
That's our conversation. It continues for the next 25 minutes with Daniel Wilcox from the UK High Commission and Mary Njuguna from FSD Africa, and understanding what the gender bonds are. So, Mary, you've just said, let's gender bond. You're issuing a bond in the market and you're saying, I am going to take the proceeds of this bond to go and put in either women-led and women-owned businesses or businesses that have an impact on women. Maybe they have employed women or they're producing products and services that will greatly benefit women.
Correct.
That talks about almost everything. I mean, if you just think about it, all I need to do is come to the market and say, I can show how women are going to be impacted. So I'm in the agribusiness, agri-processing, women are farmers. I'm in this, women are producing goods and services. I'm in this, women are consumers of these goods and services. I've employed women in my company. And if I can just show that I have one extra woman than men, then I have more than 50% of women employed in my company, I'll sit favorably and get this bond. It's like a buzzword.
What I can say to that is it's not that easy. I think I've tried to explain it as simply as I can. There are very many intricacies because you can't just bring a bond and call it a gender bond. And for sure, you're right. I mean, everything has an impact on one gender or the other. What I can say is when you look at the process of issuing this bond, it's a very rigorous process. You can't label it a gender bond unless a third party has actually checked what metrics you're using and confirmed that indeed this qualifies, because it's not enough to be tokenistic. You need to be really, even those products, they have to be really, they should disproportionately benefit women in the sense that there should be some significant impact to women, for example. And we're saying women not because women is gender, but in this particular, in our context, in our social construct, we know that when we're talking about access to finance, for example, it's women-owned and led businesses that have challenges accessing finance, for example. But that's not to say that gender equals women. Sure. But that's what I would say to that, just to let you know that it's a very rigorous process. So you can't even come and say that if you own a company with your daughter and your wife and you have 80% and they're also there, that is a women-led and owned business. It's not. There's a certain threshold, so it's about 50%. When you talk about women in the workforce, it has to be at least between 30 and 50 as a minimum to be considered. So there are certain thresholds, because you're right. I mean, anyone can say anything. So it's a very rigorous process, technically, that goes into allowing one to say it's a gender bond.
When you look at impact, it was one of the things that you mentioned. Fortunately or unfortunately, you cannot measure impact until after the fact. So how would you then be able to know its potential for impact if you didn't give it a try? Because you can't say, well, I'm going to look at this thing and I think its impact would be 30%. No, you have to do it and then see. And unfortunately, sometimes fail before you realize that was not a good attempt. So how do you know, with impact being one of the things you look for?
So that's a good question, and that brings to mind the point about data. And it's very important for any issuer that wants to issue a gender bond to have their data right, gender disaggregated data right. They need to know what is the baseline. That's where they're starting from. And what we find is that most of these institutions that have come to the markets, and we've seen this in other markets, that's Morocco and Tanzania, where we've supported bonds. These are institutions that already had banking, or should I say women lending portfolio or business. So they're able to check, based on it's not a company that just comes to the market day one and has never done anything in terms of lending to women and now wants to start and do a gender bond day one. Okay. They have a lending business to women. They understand that market. They want to scale. So they have a baseline they're starting from. So they raise the capital today on day one, but they have an obligation, again, this is a requirement for them to disclose after 1 year. How have they applied that money and what is the impact? Where is the money going? And I can give you one example, a practical example, so that just to add color to what we are saying. So, for example, in Morocco, we supported one bank. It's called Banque Centrale Populaire to issue a gender bond. It was actually the first in Africa. And so they raised about 20 million USD at the time. And, we are keen, and not just us, investors are keen. When you put your money and you've been told this is where it's going, you want to see that it's actually gone there. So what we found when we looked at their impact report after the fact is that they were able to lend. Their aim what they had committed to do is to lend to the underserved women, those who are unbanked, who are not really accessing credit from the banking system. So they actually, the money that was raised was on lent to their microfinance institution that on lent about 17,000 microloans. And microloans here is loans that were in the region of about 200,000 shillings. To micro enterprises. So those are small businesses, maybe employing less than 10 people, many of them in the informal sector. So really serving those women who may not have been able to get loans. And so one of the things we saw with that is, also trying to understand the demographics, who was getting this money amongst these women. We saw that most of them, it was a fair distribution in terms of age, but most of them were youth. Most of them were in the urban centers. And there's a lot you can get from this data, just understanding which sectors and things like that. And I think that helps an issuer even kind of fine-tune the kind of product that they're offering and their impact narrative, so that I think it also applies pressure to others in that field who are trying to attract this kind of a client, for example. But I think beyond that, I think it's the overall impact of being able to be inclusive to ensure that even that micro enterprise owned by a woman or led by a woman or operating in that field is able to access funding.
It's some sort of affirmative action by the private sector, where we are saying, look, we realize that there is a huge impact on women who are not gainfully employed or women who are struggling to run and sustain businesses, and we want to support them. And we want to come up with a fund that specifically goes to address this need. Is there an expectation to the issuer, for example, when a bank is taking this bond to on-lend to small and micro businesses that are run by women, to have preferential rates for these loans that they give to the women?
So some of them actually do. Some of them do, like we saw that with NMB when we went to the field, because we actually went to speak to beneficiaries, real beneficiaries, aside from the quantitative data that we are given. And they tell us that indeed, instead of getting a loan at 19% that anyone would have gotten, they got their loan at 14%. There are arguments for and against, because, it benefits them, but I guess there are those who those who argue that it distorts the market. But I think this is an issue for, every bank or every financial institution has its own model as to how they reach this kind of a client. And so that's what I'd say on that.
I just want to pick back on the how do we get to the impact, and there's some theorizing in that, but I bringing it back to the SME microfinance loans kind of example, like the single largest contributor to poverty reduction is better paid work, and most people living in poverty or work for themselves or for small medium enterprises. So I think giving that support to small and medium enterprises will support the growth of an economy and will improve people's livelihoods and their incomes. And I think the point is, so that is a tried and tested model. We've seen it in many different scenarios. But currently there's a big portion of that SMEs that aren't being supported and aren't contributing to that growth, and that's our women-led SMEs. So I don't think preferential rates is particularly thing. It's just getting the access to financing in the first place. I gave the statistic of non-performing loans. Women enterprises are better at not defaulting, so they are better customers ultimately for the bank. But on average, women they will receive loans that are only 50% of what a men's run company is. And currently, the financing gap of women companies that need money and what's out there is 42 billion in sub-Saharan Africa. So there's a huge financing gap, and the economy is missing out on a really good section of growth that's not currently getting the financing that it needs. And I think this is exactly why we want to just channel the funding to it. And I think the important thing is bringing that framework of discipline around what it means. We don't want, like as you mentioned earlier, just a tick box exercise. It needs to be very clear that this money will go to women-led, and we need to be able to track that, because the impact then will happen, because we've seen it happen elsewhere. But they just need to get the funding, and then they will kind of sort out the rest.
So what are we doing exactly? Are we bridging a gender gap? Is it just absolute altruism? Is there a business angle to it? Because no one gives money just for the heck of it.
Exactly. No, there must be a business angle, because I believe that banks, financial institutions, part of the reason why they already have like a women banking products, because they do have that. Even aside from gender bonds, we already speak to banks, financial institutions. They tell us they already have that as a business, because they can see that there's a big business opportunity in terms of lending to that particular segment that is underserved. So definitely there has to be a business case for that, and there is. I think the case is made. I think there is a business case. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. Is what I'd say. Yeah.
So as an investor in the bonds market, whether a retail investor or institutional investor, of course, the first thing I'm going for is the return. Then now, when you come to this gender bond, apart from the feel-good factor, knowing that I lent money to go and have a proper impact on women in the community, what other benefits are there for an investor to put money in a gender bond?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say, in addition to that, I think it's beyond a feel-good factor. Because unlike any other bond I will invest in, where they do not specify where the funds are going, and this goes for gender bond, green bond, sustainability bond, I think as an investor, I know where the money is going. Like it is, you have, as an investor, I have been told by the issuer where the money is going. There's an added level of transparency. And for me as an investor, I'd rather that than my money going into a pot. And of course if I've invested and I've invested in a good company, I believe that they will make the right decisions. And many times they do anyway. But what I think is that as an investor, I'll be comfortable knowing that these funds have gone to where what has been allocated. And if it's a green bond, for example, as an investor, there's an added benefit. There's the government, for example, in Kenya has there's in law and tax benefit. So the interest income that I would get is exempt from tax. So as an investor, there's a real tangible additional benefit beyond the impact itself. Yeah.
The tax relief is only on this sustainability bonds, or is on? It's
on green bonds at the moment only, not yet on
gender bonds.
I was good. I see there's two other areas that investors would look at, and they are commercial. We're not asking them to do a favor. This is not charity. This is commercial, sustainable financing, and the two things are they will make better returns. So that point saying if you've got, especially in the gender world, if you've got a diverse gender portfolio, they perform better. The second one is you'll be able to raise more capital. There are the investors out there and pension funds. They want their money to do good, and the owners of pension funds, as in us, want our money to do good. So if you're an investor and you're trying to raise a fund, you want to have a green element to it. You want to have a gender element to it, because you'll access kind of these responsible kind of funds out there. So I think it's in their best interest to do it. And I think that what's so great about this is it is quite win-win across the board. The hard thing is just channeling it in the right direction. And that's exactly where FSDA comes in, because it builds that framework to say, this is how it's channeled, this is how you can have confidence that it's going to go to the right places.
As is the case when there is an opportunity, because at the end of the day, when folks are listening and saying, so what exactly does this mean? Essentially, we're saying that there's funding then available for small businesses, bottom line. Right? Correct. So how do individuals, small businesses, then get to know that this is available and that this is where they need to go to be able to access?
So if I could respond to that, I mean, one of the things that we've been doing in Kenya so far, there's been no gender bond issued. And one of the things that we did recently, I think 2 weeks ago, is to launch a gender bonds toolkit to help issuers and investors understand what is this product, and if I want to issue one, how do I go about it? And that's important, because awareness creation is really the first step. But beyond that, it is really for the trigger for getting these funds flowing is to get potential issuers to come to market and issue a gender bond. And I mean, I'm happy to say that in many markets, including Kenya, we've been talking to some potential issuers. And so that's the first thing. And when that happens, by the way, whenever there is a bond issuance, I think it's always very, I mean, it's a loud thing. It's we know, like I mean, whether it's a Euro bond, infrastructure bond, or another company issuing a bond. So it will be, I mean, investors like you and I will know. But I think even as a client of that bank, I will know that there is now more money. This bank is signaling to me that they want to lend more to this underserved segment. And if I'm one of those, then I know that I also stand to benefit.
Mary, can I interject with a question there? And just for us to be because there are many folks who don't understand. When you say issue and then call to market, what does that mean? And then how do you then know that the process then is activated?
Okay.
Yeah.
So agenda bond, the company that would issue agenda. So when I say issue, I mean make available to the market, and that means calling investors who have the money to invest in that bond. So a agenda bond issuer would issue a bond when, conditions are right, they're ready to issue the bond. So what happens is usually they'll, even in the newspapers, on TV, they advertise and they say that, we've issued this bond, this is the interest rate, we're going to raise this money and we will lend to this segment, these women-owned, women-led enterprises or other, gender empowerment objectives. So that's something that we will get to know about as investors. It's usually a public process. And when that money is raised, the company that issues, usually let's, for this discussion, talk about a bank or a financial institution that wants to raise that money. They will disclose that this money, we are not raising any other bond. We are raising money to be able to lend to women-owned, women-led enterprises, for example. So there are usually dates as to when that offer period for that issuance comes to an end. So after that period arrives, we will get to know how much they were able to raise. A lot of times, sometimes entities come to the market, they want to raise 1 billion. But because the market is very, they find the issuance attractive, the product, the bond offer attractive, the return is good, the social impact objective, they align with it, they invest even more. And that's what we've seen. They are oversubscribed, meaning you wanted to raise one, but sometimes they'll raise even more than that. So anyway, bottom line is when that money is collected, it will sit with the entity that was raising the bond, the bank, the financial institutions, in their books. But it needs to be ring-fenced. They can't now use it to pay salaries or other things. They have to use it to lend to these women-owned, women-led enterprises.
And to go to your point about how those women-led enterprises would even know about this, I think as a lender, you don't need to know any of this bond issuance, anything like that. You just go to your bank and you find that there's a new product that's a loan for women-led enterprises. You can go, great, that's for me. And I think, again, this is kind of where the win-win is. 65% of sub-Saharan African banks have got a gender strategy, and now we're giving them a tool to say, well, this is how you can actually implement it. Why don't you expand it to include this sort of thing? So I think from a user perspective, you don't need to know what's going on behind the scenes. You just need to know, I've got access to finance now.
So essentially, the money that form what we're calling the gender bond is private money.
Yes.
Okay. So it means that we have a lucrative market.
Yes, I think that's really the point, and that's an important point, because we are saying that there is money. There is money from, whether it's from pension funds, whether it's from high net worth individuals, there is money to be invested in bonds that can be channeled towards these places. And in fact, that is a really good message, because it means that for the funding that is needed for different sustainable development needs, we don't always need to look to government or to the banking sector. That's why the capital market exists. So the capital market is, complementary to the banking system. And I don't want to get into all the technicalities, but just to say that is one of the ways that capital can be raised. And this is private money, because government funding will not fund everything.
Who are your competitors when it comes to soliciting for money to fund bonds such as this one?
As an entity issuing, the one that wants to raise money?
As a business entity. Because, yes?
So, who are your competitors?
Okay, let me explain why I'm asking the question. The government of Kenya borrows externally and internally. They also say they issue bonds, or whatever paper it is that they issue. It attracts private money, pension funds, etc., etc. Now, my mind tells me that is the same money that would go to a bond similar to this one here.
Yes.
Does that then not make them a competitor?
I don't know if I would say that they are a competitor. The thing is, in any economy, there are many, it's a market. Think of it as a market. A market that you have different people, different entities coming to the market looking for capital. It can be government, it can be the private sector, and they're looking for many times, sometimes it's the same pools of capital, but again, for some of these sustainable instruments or like gender bonds, green bonds, there's certain money that is actually interested in that particular kind of an instrument. So they may choose, those investors may choose actually maybe not to invest in the government bond and invest in this other one, for example.
It's like in the market there are many different types of mangoes, but you've been sent to go and look for embedodo.
And
if you find embedodo, you'll go for embedodo. If you don't find embedodo, then you may start considering others.
But it's a really good kind of framing, because I'm throwing a lot of statistics out today, but there we go. But one good statistics, I gave a big number earlier about how much is needed for the Sustainable Development Goals, but the amount of financial products that have got a global sustainable investment, sustainable investment initiative, is $40 trillion. There's a huge amount of pool of capital, but only 17 billion of that. So 17 billion of 40 trillion, big numbers, both of them I know, but one's much, much bigger than the other. It goes towards gender types of investment. So it's untapped. And I think this is it. You're not competing against the same investors because some investors are looking for a very specific type of instrument.
In the market. In this country, apart from banks, for example, because I've heard from Morocco and Tanzania, it's basically financial institutions that have floated the gender bonds. Who else would float a gender bond? Would issue a gender bond in Kenya?
It could be an entity that is producing goods, for example, that may benefit women. And I think I want to spotlight one particular transaction that we supported. It was a green bond.
Okay.
It was not issued to the public, meaning it was issued to a certain class of private investors, high net worth investors. But I use that as an example because I think it also had a gender impacts as well. And this is a company called Ban Manufacturing Limited, and they manufacture clean cook stoves. They are based in Kenya and have a plant here, but they they manufacture and distribute to the rest of to other countries as well. So they raised a bond to increase their capacity, their manufacturing capacity, to about 600,000 units per month. They've been doing about 400,000, so that they are able to do more and distribute to other markets. But I think when you look at the actual product that they are developing, when you look at the kind of impact that has when it comes to reducing, because these products, when you look at the data, the time taken to cook, for example, or even the energy efficiency of now using these cleaner cook stoves, it saves the people who are cooking, and it's usually in our social construct women, for example. There is issues around even health. There is respiratory benefits there, child mortality benefits there as well. So when you look at some of those impacts, it has gender impacts. I'm using this as an example just to color the picture. That could be a gender.
So private companies such as the Burn company that makes the cook stoves could also just directly go and issue a gender bond. Not necessarily having to go at a bank that issues a gender bond then to lend on to Burn. So Burn itself can go directly to the market.
Yes, correct.
Okay. They need to talk to people like you.
Yes.
To be able to know, okay, so this is how we can structure our...
Yes.
How do they reach you?
So
as in, where do they find people like you?
Well, I'm happy to leave our contacts with you for FSD Africa, but they are also available to look at our contacts even on the website. You'll be able to get our contacts.
FSD Africa on the website. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've learned quite a bit about bonds, and particular this one, the gender bond. Looking forward to the first issuance of the gender bond in the market.
They must come back again. Because there are questions that still need to be answered.
Quite a bit. But thank you very much. Mary Njuguna from FSD Capital. She's FSD Africa. She's a principal specialist for capital markets. And Daniel Wilcox, who is the UK's head of economic development in Kenya, the economic councillor at the UK High Commission. Asanteni sana for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we talk about the East African Legislative Assembly. The Assembly has been meeting in Nairobi in the last 1 week. So what are they discussing and why are they here? We'll talk to an MP. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Embakasi residents through Francis Mureithi are seeking justice in the courts of law. Mureithi is taking NEMA, the Nairobi City County, the Attorney General, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Marxist Nairobi Energy and Ministry of Energy to court. In the suit, Mureithi alleges that the 6 entities failed to carry out their duties diligently, exposing the residents of Muradi to the tragedy that befell them. The petitioner says NEMA, Nairobi City County, the Ministry of Energy and EPRA failed the people of Muradi by allowing the licensing and operation of the gas refill facility within a residential area. The Nairobi County government is further blamed for failing to adequately protect the residents of Muradi from harm occasioned by the operation of the gas refill facility, as well as failing to respond in a timely and expeditious manner to the fire tragedy, amongst other breaches. Just last week, the owner of the gas refill facility, Derek Kimathi, was arraigned alongside 3 NEMA officials who are accused of illegally issuing him a license to operate. The matter will come up for directions in the High Court on the 29th of May. This year. A middle-aged man from Elgeyo Marakwet is said to be arraigned today after reportedly stoning his wife to death at Biritwo Market. The suspect, Boniface Kokon, is said to have in an altercation with his wife over suspicion of misusing business funds. According to witnesses, Kokon dragged his wife from the shop and stoned her to death. The body has been moved to the Iten County Referral Hospital mortuary, with the suspect being detained at Iten Police Station.
Huyo mzee mwenye alitekeleza hiyo kitendo alikuwa anasimama tu hapo, alikuwa na kisu mkononi, na unaona mawe yenye aliweza kulingia huyo mama.
Baadaye hata kusaidia alikuwa amekufa. Ndio kitu ile tusitosha sasa. Hata kuna jamaa mwingine wa bodaboda alikuja kufika hapa akafailed na kulala hapa chini, kumbe ni mstuko.
El Nino is likely to persist until May. The latest update from the World Meteorological Organization puts that possibility at about 60%. WMO says there is 80% chance of neutral conditions, neither El Nino nor La Nina, in April to June. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi is set to represent President William Ruto at the Danish-Africa High-Level Dialogue Summit in Denmark today. This is according to Kenya's ambassador to Denmark, Angeline Musili, who said the summit will focus on strengthening the partnership between Denmark and Africa. And in matters of the budget, National Assembly's Budget and Appropriations Committee Chairman Dindi Nyoro says preparations of the budget policy statement for the fiscal year 2024-2025 is at its peak. Nyoro says the biggest beneficiaries will be the agriculture sector.
Unajua Kenya tunashikiliwa sana na wakulima wa kahawa kwa maneno ya exports, na tumeweka pesa ya kututayarishia kutengeneza ile inaitwa guaranteed minimum returns kwa maneno ya kahawa. Hapo beleni tuliweka 4 billion katika supplementary, katika hapa juzi tumeongeza another 2 billion katika coffee cherry fund ambayo tunataka tutumie to guarantee our coffee farmers a guaranteed return. Tumeweka pia pesa ya wakulima wa majani chai. Wale hapo awali walinunua fertilizer, subsidy ilibaki upande ya serikali. Tumeweka pia hiyo subsidy arrears, na pia tumeweka pesa ya subsidy ya wakulima wa majani chai, so that also them can also take advantage of that government program.
Nyoro further assured teacher trainees of their official absorption into the next financial year.
Katika TSC tumeongeza fedha 26.3 billion shillings katika TSC. Na hiyo pesa tumesema wale interns, wale waliajiriwa hapo awali na serikali, 26,000 of them, we want them to be confirmed on permanent and pensionable terms. Kwa sababu hawa wengi ni wazazi pia, wanajitolea sana, tunataka wapewe kazi na serikali, kazi ya kudumu. Na katika hiyo fedha pia 26.3 billion tumeweka pesa of hiring an extra 20,000 teachers katika the next financial year.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
it doesn't mean it likes you. It wants tax. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, nin there, ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, "Now you, fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's see if it's looking a little better now. Uhuru Highway, quite busy still. And also, this is Landis Road going towards Kamkunji at the roundabout, and some of that spilling over towards Haile Selassie. It's busy then, still off the Thika Superhighway, but at least just past Survey, and then going towards the underpass. Limuru Road, just a little bit of that left. And we saw that traffic that was on Ring Road Westlands. It's still an issue there. Waiaki Way is still a bit busy. And at least what was going on around James Gishoro has come to an end, and the Red Hill Link Road traffic has subsided. So we're getting closer to the end of traffic hour. Let's see how this progresses. In about half hour or so, and we'll talk on Spice FM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 9, how are you doing? Welcome to the final hour of The Situation Room this Monday, 11th day of March, 2024. Thank you very much for keeping it locked here every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on YouTube and Facebook, and on SpiceFM and on KTN Home. So, plan.icalion.co.ke, that's the microsite. Look at that. We'll go to that chat. We are online. How may I help you? Chat now. Say, I want a plan. Or I have a plan.
I have a plan, you said?
Tell them I have a plan. I have a plan.
I have a plan. How would you like to be addressed? I said I have a plan.
You just say as Mrs. How would you like to be addressed? Mr. As Doctor. As PhD. We can drop you an email. See, now they're asking you, so you can drop you an email. And the next thing is drop you an email and help you out in everything that you're talking about. This is ICALion. Plan.icealion.co.ke. You see that guy there? I've got a plan that ensures biz yangu in a grow. Do you need a plan? Talk to ICALion. They'll work with you. They'll help you. They'll walk the journey with you into having a realistic plan. EcoBank lends to women-led enterprises.
Yes.
EcoBank should float this thing we just talked about, a gender bond. That will just support everybody in Africa. Sindio?
They do. Because now they're everywhere anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what better way to then be able to get, more into the market? But look, they have a way in which they do business. They have a way in which they've created this platform that's available for people across 35 different markets for you to be essentially able to plug in and play wherever it is that you are. A better way to do business, a better Africa.
Indeed. Indeed. Our next guest is a member of parliament from the East African Legislative Assembly, David Ole Sankok. Mheshimiwa, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We have not met in this year.
Bwana, we have not. Bwana.
Bwana,
we haven't met since you went to Arusha.
When I was deported to Arusha. And I'm shocked. I thought
we exported your expertise
to
the regional assembly.
I thought you guys are normally very idle. But when I have just realized my friend here is writing a lot of notes, reading all the newspapers, not only locally but internationally. My sister here is another
old newspapers.
With a with a book, and a pen, and you guys are normally very that busy.
Yes.
Bwana.
Yes.
Unajua mtu ataweza fikiri mnaongea tu. Lakini kitabu read imejana ni kitabu ya A4. Almost 200 pages bwana. From morning.
Kweli kabisa.
That's a job we do.
Yes.
We listen to you and take notes.
Exactly.
So the next time you come here we'll say, Mheshimiwa, ile time ulikuwa
ulisema aje?
Ulifaa. Okay. Okay. How's it been?
It have been cool. It have been good. At least I miss the Kenya politics. Now I have to behave like a diplomat. I have to measure my words. In Kenya we're just for, you can even fight in bunge. I can use my crutches as weapons of mass destruction. Lakini huko sasa, diplomacy, measured words, The constitution of Kenya is not like the constitution of Uganda. I have to balance, I have to read widely, I have to bring all these katibas together in concurrence. Like, for instance, I can give you an example. In Kenya, a president go for a 2-term of 5 years each, so it have a term limit. But that does not apply to maybe Uganda. If I talk of term limits, then I may cause some frictions, diplomatic frictions, with countries that don't have term limits. Yes.
Hey, welcome. Siti.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Please welcome the Mheshimiwa with the day's proverb. This week our proverbs are?
From the Republic of Seychelles.
Okay.
Yes, the island country off the East African coast. Okay. Is it really East African? Okay. A dog that lives by the river never tires of lapping the water.
A dog that lives by the river never tires of lapping the water. Mheshimiwa Sankok, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
It's a very funny proverb, but also a Maasai never tire in eating beef or meat. So I think it's the same. You saw yesterday, the day before yesterday, on Saturday, I had the whole East African community, East Africa Legislative Assembly members of parliament, all of them in Narok. And I'm sure they enjoyed the beef. They were shocked. As in Masailand, we don't eat ugali, we don't eat any other thing. Nyama, baada ya nyama, and herbal soup. So I think also that proverb, they came and witnessed the proverb firsthand.
No, I like that.
A Maasai who lives by the livestock never tires of eating meat.
Actually, as we were speaking, I was just thinking of just eating meat and there's no ugali, no vegetable, just meat.
Let me invite you one day, and then you taste the Maasai style.
Yes.
It is only herbs, that is herbal soup, herbal wine, or herbal juice with meat, and you'll be shocked. You'll eat 5 kgs without realizing, and you'll feel nothing.
Because of the herbs?
Yes. They were shocked because they were members of parliament, but a whole cow and a goat, two goats, just disappeared all of a sudden. By 5 o'clock, we did not have anything to eat. I told them, go back to Nairobi, please.
So, how's it been for you serving in the East African Legislative Assembly?
Okay, my friend, Kenya sometimes are not aware, especially of the opportunities that are available. I want to tell Kenyans that East African community is like a government like any other, with 3 arms of government. East African Legislative Assembly is the legislative arm. The East African Court of Justice is the judiciary arm. The heads of state summit, together with the Council of Ministers and the Secretary General, is the executive arm. So we have those arms. And East African community is an economic bloc like no other in the world, because we have 1.4 billion acres of land. 1.4 billion of acres of land without a desert, arable land, either for livestock rearing.
Tuko na Chalbi hapa bwana. In Kenya, we have Chalbi Desert.
No, that is not a desert, my friend. That one got to survive there. Yeah. You know, when you talk about Sahara Desert, when you talk about, you are talking about semi-arid areas and arid areas. I'm talking about 1.4 billion acres, arable land. Land that you can use for agriculture or livestock rearing. Apart from probably 0.001%, the land that is on top of Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, and the water bodies. And then in East Africa, we have 350 million people. That is a market for all our products, for our leather products, for our timber products, and so on. We have 5,500 kilometers of coastline. You know, it is an economic bloc like no other. Actually, it's not 5,000, 6,500 kilometers of coastline. It is is an economic bloc like no other. We are the only economic bloc that touches on two major oceans: the Atlantic Ocean through DRC and the Indian Ocean through Kenya, Somalia, and Tanzania. We are the only economic bloc that also have the Gulf of Eden. So literally, as an economic bloc, we can do business with the Far East, India, China, Japan, name all of them, through Indian Ocean. We can do business with the Middle East and Europe through the Red Sea and the Gulf of Eden. We can do business to the West, that is America, South America, Canada, through Atlantic Ocean, DRC. We are also the only economic bloc with two large water towers in Africa. Congo Belt is the largest water tower in Africa. The second largest is Mao Forest. All of them are in East African community. If we can take advantage of this bigger market, if we can take advantage of this economic bloc that can transport goods throughout the world, then Kenya can be in a better place. It is the only economic bloc where you find slaughtering more than 11 million cattle. Those are cows only, heads of cattle, without mentioning the goats and sheep. And that's why I had a bill of banning importation of leather products, because we can easily produce, if we talk about shoes alone, we can produce more than 400 million pairs of shoes. Enough for our market, because we import 91 million pairs of shoes annually into the East African community.
11 million cattle slaughtered in how long?
Annually.
Every year?
Yes. And 4 million die of hunger and diseases.
Every year.
And you know, when a cow die because of drought, it is only the meat that normally are not edible. But the skin remain intact. The hides remain intact. So it's still useful. And in some instances in East Africa, we actually lose almost 95% of all hides and skin. They are either eaten by dogs, hyenas. We don't have a market. You know, we waste them. And then Kenya alone import 25 million pairs of shoes. That is stupidity of the highest order. You have your own leather here. You have your own human labor. We are struggling investing in capital intensive. We don't have money. So if you invest in capital intensive, what will happen? You have to borrow money. That is why we have a lot of loans. But if you invest on labor intensive, like the leather industry and timber industry, then you don't have to borrow loans, because this is labor intensive. It only requires human beings.
So why don't these things happen? From what you've been able to see so far, it is clear that, these are areas of potential that individual countries as sovereign states, but also coming together as a community, can benefit from. Because essentially everybody's problem at some point, where they want to look at how you will fund a budget, is money. right? In order to get 1, 2, 3 done, every time we're told resources. So now here we see potential projects, potential resource drawing activity, and we've just been looking at them. We just keep every time look at them. Oh, there's a potential. There's potential.
We have never.
Why are these things not activated?
We have never acted on them, but we were having our second meeting of the second session in Kigali last December. And last December, the whole of East African community, all the member states, none of them opposed my bill, and they all passed that bill of trying to invest in labor intensive, starting with leather so that we can go to timber. And if I may just explain, when you talk about capital intensive investment, like even oil exploration, you really need a lot of money. Like these so many highways, you need money. And you end up, because you are captured by the West, to believe that you can only start by capital intensive investment. Then you end up borrowing money from the World Bank, that is their own money. And then, like Kenya borrowed $10 billion US dollars in 2013. That was, that time, at the exchange rate of 80 shillings per dollar, was actually 800 billion. But even without interest, because the exchange rate now is 140, it is 1.4 trillion. You can imagine that increase because of just that fluctuation of $1 of the loans that we have been borrowing before even interest. We borrow loans at 10%, while other countries borrow at 1% because they say low risk. So when I brought this bill, all the member states actually supported it. And we can realize it within 2 years, because every country now have to go and ratify it and demonstrate it. So in the leather industry, in places like Australia and Netherlands, the hide of the cow is more expensive than the beef in the cow. But here, we are selling our cows at 70,000, and the hide and skin is either eaten by dogs or hyenas, or you sell it at 100 shillings. A whole hide.
But that we haven't been doing that for lack of legislation. It's not because we didn't have Sankok's bill.
No, it is because we didn't have. Because
why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we taking better care of our hides and skins?
It is because we don't have the bills. We don't have the act. In markets like this, what you just do, ban importation. Of course, you will not go without leather shoes. You still need a belt. You still need a wallet. You still need a handbag for the ladies and leather jackets. What will happen? The private investors, we don't need a coin from the government. The private investors will see an opportunity. Here is the raw material. Of course, we know Africans are not very good in producing cars, producing phones, but they are very good in producing children. So they have high supply of human capital. So the human capital is here.
350 million strong.
Imagine. Yes, and 60% of them are youth, So since we are very good in producing children rather than cars and other things, now this human capital can be used, because in labor-intensive investment, you only need human capital, you need the raw materials, and you need where to work in. So the government, we don't need money from the government. For a leather industry, my brother, even as little as 5 million, you can start your own leather industry.
So why hasn't this started? You see, again, you're saying, you don't need a lot of money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the private sector does not need a lot of money to start.
Exactly.
You have the supply. You have 11 million hides and skins that are being supplied by the market every year.
Yes.
11 million cows alone.
Those are slaughtered.
Just cows
The ones
alone.
which die are 4 million. So that is 15 million.
15 million.
Cows alone.
So the private sector can already see, I have access to the raw material. I have access to cheap and creative labor. I have access to a market that can consume 350 million people.
Yes.
Why hasn't it happened?
Because we allow mitumba, shoes, use shoes, use wallets, use
Are they cheaper?
leather jackets.
Are they
to
cheaper?
Be dumped here. Why are they not cheaper? Something that somebody have already used is fed up. He's fed up with that. He's just looking for somewhere to throw them, because sometimes dumping some of these used materials becoming a challenge of where to dump, especially for countries that don't have.
So through your bill,
yes,
shoes and belts and handbags and
leather products
they are going to be more
them.
expensive.
We will ban them from entering the country.
And the ones that we produce are going to be
and
more
then
expensive.
the ones that we produce, you know, that one will steer investors now to invest into it. They will be cheaper, but because you don't have an alternative, people will now invest. After investing, if you have 10 factories, 5 factories, they will now be competing to the market, for the market. The moment you compete for the market, that new shoe will be cheaper. But at the moment, we don't have. There are a lot of laws for you to be able to invest in leather industry, you know, restrictions and so on. You know, we are made to believe that we cannot do. Remember my father, my grandfather, all of them had leather products. For us, we used to use hide from cows as mattresses. We used to use them as belts. They used to make them. We used to have clothes before colonization. So this is something that we can still produce. You see the Maasai belts with the shiny shangas and whatever. They are the best. You know, you see the Maasai who are selling some leather shoes around here, the ones that look like Akala and Ginyara, but they are decorated. You know, it's also us to be proud of what we produce.
I agree 100% with that.
Yes.
Across the, you know, open lines of saying that the reason why, I mean, many things, usually they say there are very little resource for countries to use, is because we don't take into consideration that if you want to actually have enough in terms of resources or a lot more, you have to produce.
Yes.
You have to. It doesn't matter whether you're an individual or an entity or a nation. You want excess resource, you must produce. Those who have excess resources are manufacturers in terms of nations. I agree that has to happen. My issue is that the implementation matrix for a lot of these things, for some reason, seems to just pass us by. Why is it so difficult? Whether it is one nation or a concert of nations in the name of the EAC, why can we not just agree about so many things? Trade barriers, the frequent or easier movement of persons, travel and logistics. And here we are saying that there's a potential with the 350 million strong of young people. I'm not even talking about the full population. 350 million strong of young people to then create this environment where this thing can be done. Because it seems like we've been singing this song.
I think yours is a very good question. Uganda banned importation of mutumba and those use even leather shoes in lump sum. But remember, we have already implemented 2 pillars of the 4 pillars of the East African community. That is the common market and the custom union. Custom union, my sister, today, you can move to Uganda without a passport. No visa, just your ID card. You can move to Tanzania without a passport. You just need a temporary passport for you to be able to go there, because we have not yet harmonized our identity cards, because sometimes we have to harmonize the identity card for security features. Some identity cards don't have security features, so it may make our borders a bit porous. But now, when Uganda banned, and there is what we call common market, that goods in Kenya can be sold in Uganda and Tanzania, then we import and go and sell in Tanzania, because we are no longer, Tanzania is in the community of East Africa, or Uganda is in the community of East Africa. So they will still get.
So we are selling our mutumba in Uganda as Kenyan product.
So what I have done is now to put that law into the East African community. We ban importation of leather products into East African community. And once East Africa Legislative Assembly have passed a law, it will now go to respective national assemblies. It is passed, and the whole of East Africa now will have to ban importation of leather products and exportation of raw leather. No raw leather will get out of our countries again. And my sister, after that, I'll go into the timber industry. Why should you have furniture from China. And which capital do you require to start a furniture industry? You require a hammer, a saw, a chisel, nails. So how much is that? Surely. What you require mostly is the human capital. You know, huyu mtu lazima akuwe na nguvu ya kugonga mshumari na kutengeneza butt joint na kutengeneza you know those joints that join the boldiza and such. I think you did that and craft. So you can imagine what investment into the knowledge of making furniture. You just go to that the D plus guys, the D minus are the one going to train in furniture in our polytechnic. So you really don't even need an investment even in that knowledge. You know how much is it for you to go to polytechnic as compared to go and study medicine? So I'm telling you, we don't require a lot of resources. And once we ban importation of furnitures into the East Africa, I've told you the Congo Belt, I've told you the Mao Forest, I've told you our arable land, that it can grow even forest, these trees in our own land and be able to produce the best of furnitures and be able to export outside the world because we have 6,500 kilometers of coastline. So it is easier for us to do business all over. So that is the role of East Africa.
The Assembly. Let's take a break. We'll continue that conversation shortly. It's 29 minutes to 10. The Honorable David Ole Sankok is a member of parliament in the East African Legislative Assembly. One of how many from Kenya?
9 of them from Kenya, 9 from every member state. Time is 8:72. But Somalia have not yet done their election, but they will do it soon, and we will be 72. Ethiopia have already applied, is on its way. Sudan, Khartoum have already applied, on its way, and even Malawi. Very soon we'll have the United States of Africa.
Kabisa.
Yes.
We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I've got a plan to make my investment sizzle hotter than a Sunday barbecue grill. ICEA Lion has a plan for everyone. Talk to us today for a plan that's right for you. Or visit icealion.co.ke. ICEA Lion, what's your plan?
Welcome to the Delight Nakuru by Username Investments, going only for 799,000 shillings for 1/8 of an acre. There's borehole water, estate gate, graded access roads, electricity and other social amenities. SMS plot to 20321 or call 0725 000 222.
Okay, so traffic still continues here and there, but I think we're coming to the close of it. On Uhuru Highway, getting into the city, some of it moving, going towards Haile Selassie at the junction and then out towards town. Off of Mombasa Road, I think we're done with what was clogging up before. Langata Road looks pretty good. And as you're coming off of Landis Road, that traffic then going towards Kamkunji at the roundabout has reduced quite some. Valley Road, in and outbound traffic still continues. We'll keep our eyes open and see what happens through the morning. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And our conversation continues. The EALA MP David Ole Sankok. Mheshimiwa, when you were in Kenya in the National Assembly as a member of parliament, had you grasped the potential that you've just given us of the potential of the East African community?
You know, normally people think that I've been in the National Assembly for a long time. You know, because I speak so much. Na sio bure, Mungu alininyima mguu akanipatia mdomo. Sasa lazima nitumie. Watu wanaona kama nimekuwa huko for 20 years. I was just there for 5 years.
In those 5 years.
And in those 5 years, of course, we were only comfortable in the first 1 year before we were branded Tanga Tanga. And we started now survival tactics. But I had brought this bill in the National Assembly. I was supported by almost everybody. But of course, that time, when any bill from Tanga reaches the majority leader office or even the president, it is discarded. I remember also had a bill of how we can improve our forest cover by planting trees in our schools, road reserve, chief camps, and so on. But that bill, which was seconded by the late, there was another member of parliament from Anap Koi, Cheptumo. No, not Cheptumo. It's another guy, sorry. Then he actually seconded it. It went all the way. But reaching the president's desk, it was a Takatanga bill. It was never signed into law. So we had all these ideas. But I was just comfortable as a member of parliament from the ruling party for only 1 year.
But do you see the way you've given us just the grasp of the potential that the East African community brings to the table, looking from the population to the land size to the access to the international market, external markets, to access to internal markets, to its human potential, all these things that you've said, even just looking at our coastline and all, when you were here in
my friend, I wish you actually follow. You can Google of my bill when I was supporting my same bill of leather. I said Kenya slaughters 2.5 million cows alone, without the others. Yes, and 1 million die of drought and diseases. That is 3.5 million. We have a potential of producing almost 100 million pairs of shoes from cows only. And we import 25 million pairs of shoes annually into Kenya. Yet I can tell you, my brother, you know all the army and all the police officers put on leather shoes and we import that leather. Yet we have our own leather here. I had put up a spirited support of my bill and an argument that all school-going kids, that time there were actually 9 million. Today there are 10 million, either primary or secondary school kids. And they require leather shoes annually. 10 million. So that is already a market that is there. It is, every leather from a cow can produce around 20 to 25 pairs of shoes. The cheapest pair of shoes is around 2,000. The expensive one are 50,000. So you put an average of 5,000. Each cow is capable of giving us more than 100,000 Kenya shillings.
Shoes alone.
Yeah, shoes alone. Yet we sell that cow at 50,000. That is why I'm telling you, in Australia, in Netherlands, the price of the leather is more expensive than the price of the meat in that particular cow. But ours is being eaten by dogs and hyenas because of just having laws to protect the local industry.
So political shenanigans, just going back to Ndu's question, are to blame for the slow realization of the East African community's dream. Because all these things that you talked about, the potential that we have, the reason why we are not jumping at all these opportunities is because of politics.
I think my brother here will support me. That actually we have implemented the East African community to a certain level. A level that is very comfortable for all of us. A level that we have discarded the colonial boundaries. But that is why I came here. Kenyans are not realizing the potential. And Kenyans have not really followed up. And that is why when we have sittings in Arusha, the whole media give us blackout in Kenya. But if you go to Rwanda, they announce what the Parliament of Rwanda is doing. They also say, and the Parliament of the regional parliament is also doing this. That is the same in Uganda. But here in Kenya, it is all about local politics. Who is fighting which? This is Tanga, this is Azimio, things that are not beneficial to the citizen. We have 4 pillars that form the East African community. One of them I have told you, it is custom union. And we have implemented that one. You can now move freely and go and work in Rwanda, in Burundi, in DRC. But are Kenyans taking that opportunity? That is a custom union. That is why today we have the East African passport. It's not Uganda passport, it's not Rwanda passport, it is the East African passport. Only indicated, issued in Kenya, issued in Rwanda, but it is the East African passport. Meaning we can freely move. We have also implemented fully the pillar of the common market. The common market means non-tariff barriers. Meaning you can easily now clear your goods in Busia, in Namanga, in Katuna, within 3 hours. And your goods have moved and you have gone and sell them wherever you want. The only place that we have not implemented is the third and final pillar.
The monetary union?
The monetary union and
political confederation.
And the political confederation, because we wanted a political federation. But when we went there, we realized one of the interests of us becoming one country is having a stronger government called a federal government, because every country now means they will lose their sovereignty. We went and started amending the treaty, which we have already done, so that we have a political confederation, so that countries, countries can feel comfortable that they will retain their sovereignty, but being in one country like the European Union. Every country have their own leaders, their own government, but then they are one, so that we can realize the monetary union of having a single currency. When you have a political federation, that is a federal government, it means everything.
You cede all your sovereignty to the one.
Just like in Kenya, what do you have? A federal government. We have the president. The governors are literally chairmen of county councils baptized in another name. But what we have done is that we want a political confederation. In a political confederation, we can even call the head of East African Community as the chancellor of East African Community, so that Kenya remain with your president, Uganda remain with their president, Tanzania remain with their president, and they feel that once we see the benefit of being in one country, then we can now go to a political federation. So, my friend, we have really done a lot. Only that you give us blackout. You don't really tell Kenyans what we are doing. You don't tell the Kenyans the opportunities are available. And the rest of the countries will take the opportunities. Most of the members of parliament.
Are the other countries aware? When you say that Kenyans are not aware, they're not taking advantage.
Yes.
Are Rwandese aware? Are the Congolese aware? Are they
of all these
Burundians
Let
aware?
me
Are
ask
Tanzanians aware?
Let me ask you. How many Rwandans are living in Kenya? How many South Sudanese are living in Kenya? How many of other countries have migrated into this country? Local, in Kenya, the only people who are aware are the big corporate. They dig out for information. They don't necessarily depend on you. They read even international medias. They call Sankok and ask them a few. I'm the global geopolitician nowadays. So they interact with me and call me what is available here. For your information, the East African Legislative Assembly headquarters, KCB, have been given a room inside that headquarters. Kenya Commercial Bank. I'm telling you, Equity is in DRC. Equity is in South Sudan. Equity is in Rwanda. Equity is in Uganda. These big corporates have known and have realized the potential. Safaricom is doing better in other countries more than in Kenya. And all these are Kenyan companies. KQ fly to Burundi, 42 aeroplanes every week. But Burundian Airlines to Kenya, 0. We fly to DRC. I think it was around 52 weekly. I don't have the real figures. We fly to Tanzania, almost twice the number they fly to Kenya, our own airline. So
Kenyans are aware and Kenyans are taking advantage.
No, the Kenyans, the elites, because the lower category, the ones on the bottom of the
pyramid,
economic pyramid, depend on you, and you have refused to tell them. I've told you the big corporates like Equity can call the global geopolitician and ask him a few questions, and even call me for an induction.
So let me ask you, if you compare the Kenyans and the other nationalities, are they more aware?
The other nationalities, the common Wananchis are very aware. That is why even the Maasais with shukas from Zanzibar, from Tanzania, are selling their merchandise.
Dawa.
Yeah, and dawa, whatever you call it, I don't know. But they are selling in the streets of
Dawa
Nairobi.
ya tumbo.
Yes, they are selling in the streets of Nairobi. I've seen them in Rwanda. I've seen them in Uganda. So you can imagine, even in Kenya, we have our own Masais with their own dawas, but they are not taking advantage of that. But we just say hallelujah because nowadays I'm loyal to East African community. I'm not loyal to Kenya alone. I'm loyal to East African community. So to me, that is an advantage to me. But I'm telling you, you are not telling the common mwananchi. You are not selling this product to the common mwananchi so that they can realize the potential of a whole economic block with 1.4 billion acres of land. I expected the farmers from central Kenya not to pile up and creating central Kenya as the world's largest slum, but also offloading them to DRC so that they can farm there. There are arable land there. They can offload them to Tanzania with that large chunk of land. You know, because with the Kenyan, the East African passport,
you can go anywhere.
You can live anywhere. We will very soon do away with our national identity card. So with our passport, it is called East African passport, issued in Nairobi, issued in Nakuru, issued in Kigali, issued in Arusha. So
you know, Mheshimiwa, there are those who have said that it is the politicians who who came late into this process of understanding the East African community. They say East Africans who neighbor each other have been living and crossing borders and doing business as though the barriers did not exist for the longest time.
Yes.
With total disregard for whatever rules there are.
Yes.
And that it's only now the political class have realized. But again, before this one, there was the original 1960s East African community.
It collapsed.
It was collapsed. I will not say it collapsed because if you look at what they managed to achieve, remember, the East African Railways and Harbours was headquartered in Mombasa.
Yes.
Okay. East African University was headquartered in Dar es Salaam. East African Postal Services. We had already come to a commonality with these things. East African Airways. We had come to a commonality with these things. The shilling was, and its value was the shilling in Kenya, the shilling in Tanzania, the shilling in Uganda, same value. We were already there.
Yes.
Before the EU. Long before the EU. What I'm saying is, it is good that we are trying to revive something that existed. But a carryover from what existed then. I have been to several of the border towns that we have within East Africa. And in all honesty, yeah, you have a border, patrol, you have all these things. But the people who live on both sides, they simply crisscross as they see fit. Meaning, the reality of East Africa has always been with us. But the political class, for reasons best known to themselves, have been the stumbling block, not the peoples of East Africa.
You are a mobile encyclopedia. In fact, I have learned a lot from you. The East African Airways, all those things, you know, they were there. And I'm telling you, even those borders are just colonial borders. You can imagine even animals themselves, just like my cow with a map of Africa, understood. That is why Nyumbu, the wild beast of Kenya, wanatembea Serengeti bila passport kwenda kutungwa mimba, alafu wanakuja kuzalia hapa Kenya. You can imagine they can move. For us in Masai land, actually we don't know the boundaries. The bigger Masai, the bigger Sankok family live in Tanzania. Yet as we live on this side, we intermarry like nobody's. We don't even know the border. Sometimes when I used to have a clinic, I used to treat people at a place called Wasongo. And mostly the Masai, when they come, you tell them, okay, if you don't have money, you can leave your ID so that you can bring money in the next market. Because we normally have a market, livestock market. That is where they get money. They don't have banks. They don't have any other source of income apart from selling livestock. So sometimes they come and say, mimi nimeshindwa kuuza ng'ombe yangu. So naambia leta kitambulisho ndio ukuje ulipe baadaye. Lakini sasa anatoa saa zingine anatoa Tanzania. Nikishika hivi nimesahau pole anarudisha na nipatia ya Kenya. So by the way, as you have said, those who are on the borders don't know this it is us, the political class, but who is the voice of the political class? It is the media. Why don't you mention that? It is you who is my voice, because politicians cannot reach all the people, but they reach the people through you. Why don't you discard the wrong information and take up the right information? Today, you have done a marvelous job by inviting me here as the Member of Parliament in East African Legislative Assembly. But how many of my colleagues have you invited, vis-a-vis how many Kenyans have you invited to come and say, Tanga, this one, Azimio, this one, sijui nini, finance bill, you know? We also need this knowledge now that you have the East African Legislative Assembly members. Yes. As you invite the local politicians, how wanasiasa wa kijiji, also invite the international politician like some of us. Yes.
You've been going around as the EALA. You go and hold your sittings in different countries.
Yes.
You were in Rwanda in December.
Yes, we were in Bujumbura in October.
And now you're in Kenya.
Now we are in Kenya.
What's the purpose of that?
The purpose of that is exactly why I'm here. So that we can meet the common wananchi. That is why the day before yesterday, the whole of the East African Legislative Assembly honorable members were in Narok, meeting with the Maasai, interacting with them and speaking to them. Because we have seen the media, you are not sending our voices. You are not selling our voices. You are not telling wananchi what we are supposed to do. So we have decided to go analog and go physically to those wananchi. When we were in Rwanda, we had in the parliamentary games so that we can interact with wananchi. We also went to what we call Omuganda, where they plant trees every one Friday or every last Friday of the month. Every first Friday of the month, they clean their city. So we want also to participate in cleaning their cities, you know, so that we can interact with local wananchi. But if you can assist us, then we will sit comfortably in our headquarters.
Why do you want you to sit comfortably?
In Arusha.
And
do you see that? Do you agree to that challenge?
I don't know. I think that also, when we think about it, I think it's one thing that we've complained about a lot. That it's very difficult for, if we can start from the government example, government doesn't share information. It's no different from a concert of governments, because that's essentially what the EAC is. It's a concert of governments coming together. But then in terms of sharing the information, there's nothing wrong with
I beg to differ with you.
There's nothing wrong with saying this is what we've done.
I beg to differ with you.
That there's something wrong with saying this is what you've done?
You see how many people are here. I don't know even how much you pay this. There are so many. And thank you for employing them. But all of them are collecting information. Ni watu wa mshene. Sasa hii mshene mbona msirokete pia East Africa. It is not me to bring for you. It is you to collect this information. You are collectors of information.
No. There's something called evaluation.
Yes.
And it can be self-evaluation. Yes. It can be external evaluation. What's wrong with giving updates in terms of what has happened or what has been achieved?
But we give because every day when we are sitting, why don't we have media people? I have told you, all these characters that are here, I thought it was a political rally that is here when I was coming in. It was not a political rally. I saw everybody with a computer. What are they doing with those computers? They are collecting information. You decide to collect information in other quarters and refuse to collect in... Have you sent your people to follow our proceeding in the Parliament of Kenya?
We do have... we have parliamentary reporters, yes we do.
Yes, and not parliamentary, not Kenyan parliamentarian.
East African community.
East African, because now we are sitting in the mini chamber.
We do.
No, I didn't see you. I was there.
Not us.
Buana.
Not you individually, but I didn't see KTN. And I didn't see Spice. Anyway.
It is a fair challenge.
It's a challenge. Because we are sitting, we are even discussing the president's speech. Because you open our plenary.
But Mheshimiwa, if you had told us, for instance, you're our friend, you've been here before.
Yes.
That you're taking the whole of East Africa to Narok. We would have come. But you did not tell us.
No, you see.
How did we know? How would we know? Had we gone, we would have known.
I thought munalipwa kwa sababu ya kurokota mshene. Yani collecting of information. So I thought you guys will collect information from every... It is you paid. No, me, I'm not paid to report. Me, I'm paid to make law. You are paid to report and to collect those information so that you can report something. So wewe mjara yako utagawa na mimi ndio nikuletea information ama utata kurokota. Nimekwambia hii kompyuta hii ni almost 1000 computers ziko hapa. Hata naangalia nikiwa hapa na watu wanaro. Anyway, mrokote pia mshene kutoka Arusha. Please. That is the message.
As I said, it is indeed a fair challenge. It is a fair challenge.
Anyway, we met at home and we also agreed at this African community that we will support Raila Odinga for the chairmanship of African Union Commission.
Why is that important?
Why?
This one is so important. One, the African Union Commission is like now the overall president of the United States of Africa when that is formed. Again, all the other regions have gotten their fair chance. We have gotten from the western region, the northern region, the southern region, the central region, but the East African region have not gotten a chance. Again, you know, people may think that Sankok is mad. He have been a critic of Raila Amolo Odinga. But you know, the background of Raila Amolo Odinga, apart from being the father of Kenyan democracy, he will be the bridge between our Pan-African forefathers and the younger generation. You know why? My friend, today, because of your age, you are able to remind me a lot of things that happened in East Africa. Of course, they did not know. I saw them being shocked because of limitation of age. Now, Raila, I've met with Kwame Nkrumah, I've met with Nelson Mandela, I met with Muammar Gaddafi, all the Pan-African forefathers, he have interacted with them. He have interacted with the middle age. He have interacted with the younger generation. During campaign, when we were saying hustlers, he also decided another scenario of trying to hype the younger generation to vote for him. So at the end of the day, if we need a bridge of the Pan-African forefathers' dream of uniting Africa into the United States of Africa, then we need somebody who understands the Pan-African forefathers, their dream, who have interacted with them, and the person who is still living to be able to interact with the younger generation. So the only bridge of the past, the present, and the future is Raila Odinga as it stands now.
Okay.
In fact, there is one colleague of mine, a member of East Africa Legislative Assembly, an MP from Uganda, called Dr. Shiranda Black. He's a youth of less than 35 years old. He also wanted to contest. But hearing that Raila will contest and sitting down with him and telling him the importance of having this bridge, if all of us want to unite Africa, then he stepped down.
You said this support for Raila Odinga as the AUC chair is very, very interesting. And all the things that have been said in the last couple of weeks are quite enlightening. You know, it seems as though there's been a sudden realization of his expertise, his talent, his knowledge, the history. But one must wonder, why has not this been realized before? Why was there not the realization? Come on, before that he could actually do something like this? He is not a spring chicken. He was not born yesterday.
He didn't suddenly have these qualities last week or the week before.
The qualities, he did not just get them 2 weeks ago. From what you're saying, he's had these qualities for a while. But now is when we hear everybody singing.
Everyone, literally.
Everybody.
Not everybody. Sankok started a song
about Raila Odinga as though he's somebody we've never met before. Where is this all coming from?
I started a song even when Sifuna was confused. He was asking me, Raila is going to nowhere. And because even me, I was in Kijiji, why am I in Kijiji? Let me ask you a question. Have ever Raila contested to be the AUC chairman?
No.
No.
Is it his first stint at anything with the AU?
No.
Exactly. It is not his first stint.
No, the first time he was in charge of infrastructure in Africa.
And he wasn't elected.
Exactly.
And that is why
he wasn't elected for it.
And that is why
but still
he got a straight sail. You know, I can be very good as a member of parliament, not necessarily as an MCA. I can be very good as a president, but not necessarily as a governor. So you don't ask William Ruto, why have you never been elected as the governor of Uasin-Gishu?
Yes, you can ask.
You can't ask him. You know, you can't say that your talent was not realized for you to become a chairman of a county council.
Okay, so let me ask the question separately since you've chosen not to answer.
No, I'm answering.
Why has the support come for the same man in this manner now?
Because the opportunity have come, the chairmanship position of African Union Commission is falling vacant. It have never fell vacant, and it is now that the time is that it have fall vacant. Again, it is the time when it is for the East African region. And looking around, the most experienced is not even William Ruto. Because we need, as I have told you, we need a bridge. Because we need still to carry that dream of our Pan-African forefathers. Okay. The only person who can assist us, the only soul alive who can carry the aspiration and the dream of our Pan-African forefathers is none other than His Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Okay. Up to now, I still believe he's not qualified to become the president of Kenya. And I'll not vote for him if he contests as the president of Kenya. But for African Union Commission chairmanship, is the most qualified.
Mheshimiwa David Ole Sankok, Member of Parliament, East African Legislative Assembly. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. You have yourself a lovely day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good morning.
The number crunchy. We established that the kind of spirits that are being sold in those villages, for 250 ml, the cost is 250 shillings. So if you find someone who is selling that